Chapter 240. Chapter 240 Slay 1,000 men pa pa pa. The sound of feet slamming into cheeks was so clear and melodious in the open space that everyone could not help but feel dizzy. They could only stare blankly at LV Yuanhua, whose cheeks were being continuously trampled under the feet of the youth, as the atmosphere of the scene instantly became exceptionally strange. The ninth commandery princess opened her mouth slightly. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. Is he really Zhuowen? Third brother is actually being stepped on by this guy. Lu Yuanhua, as the third prince of the house of Marquis Qin, had a high position and power, a dignified appearance, and was also one of the top geniuses of the house of Marquis Qin. But now, he was being trampled under the feet of an ordinary youth, and was being trampled continuously. At this time, Lu Yuanhua's heart was filled with shock and anger. He didn't think that Zhuowen would suddenly appear behind him, so he suffered a loss. But when he wanted to get up, a power that even he found hard to resist came from under Zhuowen's feet. This power was far stronger than the last time he met Zhuowen. This bastard actually advanced to the Earth King stage? How is this possible? A few days ago he was only a mortal king. How did he reach that level in just a few days? Lu Yuanhua finally felt a sliver of fear when he sensed the power beneath Zhuowen's feet. The speed of the young man's advancement was too terrifying. He still remembered that a month ago, the young man was only at the corporeal yang stage. At that time, the young man was simply looking up to him. If it wasn't for Master Karaki's intervention, LV Yuanhua would have been killed by LV Yuanhua with a wave of his hand. But now, the ant-like existence of the young man was trampling on him at will. This made LV Yuanhua feel humiliated, and even more terrified. Low-level Earth King realm? In just a few days, Zhuowen has advanced again. Lingju's old face was filled with shock when he sensed Zhuowen's powerful aura. Hearing Lingju's words, the ninth commandery princess, Su Chang, and Su Mu's expressions changed drastically. Even they didn't expect Zhuowen to reach the Earth King realm unknowingly. Puff! With a fierce kick, LV Yuanhua's cheeks immediately swelled up. Blood mixed with his teeth spat out, forming a blood column in the air. Zhuowen! That's enough. It won't do you any good if you continue fighting. It will only make you an enemy of the house of Marquis. Lingju could not stand it anymore. Although he did not have a good impression of LV Yuanhua, the latter was still the third prince of Muqin Marquis Mansion. He could not sit by and watch. I know what I'm doing. I don't need you to teach me. With a cold smile, Zhuowen kicked Lu Yuanhua's chest with the tip of his right foot. The powerful force made Lu Yuanhua fly into the air. Then, like a withered leaf, he flew toward Lingju. Lingju caught him and looked at Lu Yuanhua, who was dying in his arms. He sighed and said, "Third young master, Zhuowen has become so powerful that we can't defeat him. I think we should give up." Lu Yuanhua's eyes were filled with shame and anger. He spat out another mouthful of blood and fainted. He was so angry. Looking at the thousands of warriors who were slowly gathering around him, Zhuowen's eyes became colder and colder. He said indifferently, "Do you also want the Earth Spirit treasure? If you have the guts, then come and take it." Zhuowen had defeated Lu Yuanhua so easily, although it had a certain deterrent effect, and caused the surrounding warriors to stop. The temptation of the Earth Spirit treasure was too great. Even if Zhuowen was very strong, he was only one person, while there were thousands of them. Everyone attack. This kid is weak and alone. Moreover, he's only one person, while we have so many people. Attack together, kill him, and take the Earth Spirit treasure in his hands. That's right. No matter how strong this kid is, he's only one person. We have thousands of people. If we join forces, this kid won't be able to do anything. Someone in the crowd started to jeer. The fear in the hearts of those who were originally shrinking back was replaced by greed at this moment. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. 10 figures suddenly flew out from the crowd. These 10 figures were full of energy and vigorous auras. The yuan power faintly emitted from their bodies caused the air to boil. These 10 figures were actually Earth King Realm warriors. 10 Earth King Realm warriors were joining forces to take down the youth before them. Boom, boom, boom. The youth stood in place, slightly raised his head, and looked indifferently at the 10 figures around him. There was not the slightest trace of fear on his face, but he did not have the slightest intention to attack. One of the figures laughed savagely when he saw Zhuowen being so arrogant, and his hand transformed into a claw that suddenly slapped down towards the top of Zhuowen's head while he sneered. "Kid, aren't you being too arrogant? Don't tell me you don't want to attack?" However, the smile on the figure's face soon froze. After the youth's lips curled into a mocking smile, a black figure instantly blocked in front of the youth. It was a middle-aged man with a resolute expression and a dull face. It was Zhuowen's reverse spirit puppet. The reverse spirit puppet was expressionless. Its steel-like arm slammed into the figure's claw. With a cracking sound, the powerful force shattered the figure's hand like a hot knife through butter. Poochie! Before the figure could react, he felt an intense pain in his arm. His entire body flew backwards as blood gushed out of his mouth. After the reverse spirit puppet instantly repelled the figure, it tapped its feet and charged towards the other 9 figures like a bolt of black lightning. Its attack method was simple and crude. With just a single punch, it completely crippled the 9 figures. Bang! 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 Miserable shrieks rang out. The 10 Earth King Realm experts, who were originally imposing, were now like dead dogs, rolling on the ground. Their miserable and distant cries caused many of the surrounding cultivators to feel a chill run down their spines. Although there were thousands of warriors around, there were only a dozen or so who had reached the Earth King realm. Now that 10 of them had been crippled by Zhuowen in an instant, the remaining Earth King realm warriors could be counted with one hand. However, what truly terrified these thousands of warriors was the tall middle-aged man, who had suddenly appeared beside Zhuowen. If they were not wrong, the strength that the middle-aged man had displayed just now had already reached the peak of the Heavenly King realm. Other than the Lingzhu, who else could stop him? It's actually a Heavenly King realm expert. I never thought that Zhuowen would have such an expert protecting him. No wonder he was able to snatch the Earth-rank soul treasure from the 5 great forces. Looks like we've kicked an iron plate. The Earth-rank soul treasure isn't that easy to snatch. The thousands of warriors who had surrounded Zhuowen finally felt a trace of fear in their hearts. They knew that with the existence of a Heavenly King realm warrior, even if they had the absolute advantage in numbers, they would not be able to snatch the Earth-rank soul treasure from the youth in front of them. Thinking of this, the greed in the eyes of these warriors gradually faded and was replaced by a trace of clarity. They shook their heads and actually planned to disperse. They no longer surrounded Zhuowen, and instead opened up a path. "Did I allow you to leave? Just now, when you saw that I was weak, all of you were like mad dogs, wanting to kill me and snatch my treasures. Now that you see that you're no match for me, you want to leave? Do you really think that I, Zhuowen, am so easy to bully?" Ignoring the path that the crowd had made way for him, Zhuowen looked around with an extremely cold gaze. His indifferent voice rang out word by word. Zhuowen knew that if he did not have the strength to truss a chicken today, he would have already died an unnatural death. Zhuowen knew that if he did not show his strength, such a thing would probably happen again in the future. Thinking of this, Zhuowen's eyes were filled with dense killing intent. At this moment, his strength had greatly increased, and he even had the 9-wheel burning heaven cauldron and the Icefire Holy Talisman as his trump cards. It seemed that it was time to increase his deterrence, and the best way to increase his deterrence was to kill. What an arrogant brat. Although you have the protection of a Heavenly King realm warrior, and we can't hurt you, it's impossible for you to keep 1,000 of us here by yourself. One of the few remaining Earth King realm warriors in the crowd said coldly. "Is that so?" Zhuowen sneered and patted his Qingquan bag. A palm-sized copper cauldron suddenly appeared in his palm. Then, Zhuowen stomped his foot and threw his right hand. His left hand formed a few seals, and the copper cauldron in his hand suddenly expanded at a speed that was visible to the naked eye. In the end, it turned into a giant cauldron that was a few 100 feet tall. "Since all of you want the Earth-rank spiritual treasure so much, I'll let all of you see its power. 9-wheel burning heaven array open." With a loud shout, Zhuowen formed a sword with his right hand and pointed it at the copper cauldron. 2 of the 9 fire vents on the burning sky cauldron immediately shot out 2 strange flames, one blue and one green. The blue flames were mixed with lightning. Rolling thunder rumbled as the lightning and fire merged. Waves of explosive energy were continuously emitted. The green flames turned into a green lotus and slowly bloomed. Countless green sparks fell like meteors. In an instant, the open space within a radius of 10 miles was almost enveloped by the 3,000 green lotus flame and the 9 heavens thunder flame. Endless waves of air and blazing high temperatures almost vaporized the air. The soft soil had also dried up and cracked, and the surroundings were filled with scorching air and temperature. Rumble! Zhuowen stomped his feet, and 2 green fire lotuses appeared beneath his feet. He quietly floated in the air as he indifferently looked down at the terrified crowd below. What's going on? How can these flames be so powerful? Looking at the sea of fire in all directions, fear appeared on all the warriors' faces. They realized that no matter how they attacked, they couldn't penetrate the sea of fire in front of them. Their attacks were like clay oxen entering the sea, and were completely useless. Chapter 241. Favor Zhuowen. Please forgive us. We were momentarily blinded by greed. So we listened to Lu Yuanhua's words, and actually wanted to snatch the treasure from your hands. Yeah, we know we're wrong. We'll never do it again. We'll take a detour when we see you in the future. As long as you don't kill me, I'm willing to become your slave and serve you for the rest of my life. The endless sea of fire was filled with the miserable cries and pleas of countless warriors. At this moment, everyone's hearts were filled with horror. The young man in front of them was too terrifying. He actually killed them just like that. It's too late now. If you want to repent, then wait until your next life. Zhuowen's eyes were filled with coldness as he stomped his feet on the ground, stepping on the green fire lotus as he arrived above the giant cauldron. Bang bang bang. His right hand suddenly knocked on the cauldron lid of the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron 3 times. The fire vent suddenly trembled, and even more intense flames surged out in all directions. The sea of fire that was originally dozens of miles wide instantly expanded to hundreds of miles. Outside the sea of fire, Lingjiu, the 9th Commandery Princess, Su Mu, Qinglian, and Guang Emo led their men and horses to open up their primordial energy shields. They kept retreating until they were dozens of miles away from the sea of fire. They were shocked and inexplicably looked at the towering pillar of fire not far away. What a powerful soul treasure and a powerful formation. What a ruthless and decisive young man. Qinglian stood in front of the group and looked at the sea of fire. Her beautiful eyes flickered as she softly exclaimed, Lingjiu, the 9th Commandery Princess, and Su Mu smiled bitterly when they heard Qinglian's praise. Their eyes were filled with fear. Originally, they had thought that the trip to the ancient era's cave this time around would only be a competition between the 5 great powers. However, no one had expected that a young man who was originally not noticed by anyone would actually have the last laugh. Right now, his strength had greatly increased, and he was able to fight against 1,000 people alone. Hiss! The faint sound gradually faded away, and the towering pillar of fire in the distance slowly receded, revealing the scene within a radius of several hundred kilometers. There were originally thousands of cultivators within 100 miles, but at this moment, there was only a small mountain of ashes. This was the only trace left after thousands of cultivators were incinerated by the blazing fire. Rustle! A cool breeze blew past, and the ashes that were piled up like a mountain drifted away. Thousands of warriors whose strength was above the human king realm had turned into ashes in the blink of an eye. This shocking scene was still vividly displayed in front of the warriors on the open ground. Several thousand human monarchs were annihilated just like that? Is this really possible? The 9th Commandery Princess stared blankly at the ashes that were scattered all over the sky. Her delicate body trembled involuntarily, and she could not help murmuring. Su Mu's eyes were also filled with fear. He glared fiercely at Su Chong beside him and coldly said, Second brother, don't provoke this kid in the future. He was able to defeat Lu Yuanhua at such a young age, and now he has killed thousands of cultivators by himself. I'm afraid we can't afford to provoke this kid. Su Chong was already in a daze with his mouth wide open. He sat down on the ground, and his legs trembled violently. He was also shocked by Zhuowen's ruthless means. He knew that if Zhuowen wanted to kill him now, it would be as easy as crushing an ant. This was because there were many cultivators among the thousands who were more powerful than him. Big brother, this Zhuowen has no background at all. Do you think our house of Marquis of Baichuan will be afraid of him? After calming down a little, Su Chong forced himself to be calm and asked Su Mu. Humph. Of course. Our house of Marquis of Baichuan is not afraid of this kid. However, this kid's potential is so great that even I am a little scared. If we want to go against this kid, we must get rid of him as soon as possible. Otherwise, we may be the unlucky ones. Lu Yuanhua is the best example. Do you want to follow in Lu Yuanhua's footsteps? Su Mu stared coldly at Su Chong and said. Feeling the coldness in Su Mu's eyes, Su Chong trembled all over and lowered his head silently. The resentment in his heart towards Zhuowen had weakened a lot at this moment. Thump, thump, thump. A figure slowly walked out of the remaining power of the Sea of Fire. There were even traces of lightning and green sparks spreading in the figure's body. At this moment, it was quite dazzling and colorful. Zhuowen glanced indifferently at the stunned crowd not far away and said indifferently, Is there anyone else who wants to take the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron from me? As soon as these words came out, the open space fell into a strange silence. Everyone's faces showed a wry smile. You have just killed thousands of human king realm cultivators. Who has the guts to take something from you? Since there's no one else, I'll leave first. Looking at the silent open space, Zhuowen spoke again. Just as he was about to leave, a clear voice suddenly rang out. Wait! The clear voice instantly attracted everyone's attention. When they realized that the one who called out Zhuowen was the 9th Commandery Princess of the House of Marquis Qin, they could not help but be stunned. What's the matter? Zhuowen glanced indifferently at the 9th Commandery Princess and said indifferently. Feeling the attention of the crowd, the 9th Commandery Princess's pretty face could not help but redden. She bit her lower lip and looked at the young man in front of her with a complicated expression. She said, Are you really Zhuowen from Rattan Armor City? The 9th Commandery Princess could not reconcile the young man in front of her, who had easily defeated her third brother Lu Yuanhua and killed thousands of human king realm cultivators with the young man, who could only look up to her in the competition for places. Why not? If the Commandery Princess has nothing else to say, I'll leave first. Zhuowen frowned slightly. He did not expect that the 9th Commandery Princess would only ask him to stay for such nonsense. Seeing Zhuowen's impatient attitude, the 9th Commandery Princess's pretty face turned pale. She bit her lower lip and said, The thousands of people you killed today were basically all warriors from the forces in the Commandery capital. You've killed so many people that I'm afraid the forces in the Commandery capital will not let you go. Even if you're not afraid of these forces, your family is different. Hearing this, Zhuowen's face suddenly darkened. What the 9th Commandery Princess said was right. He frowned slightly and said, I'll deal with this myself. If you still want to recruit me, you don't have to mention it anymore. Today I've defeated Lu Yuanhua, so Lu Yuanhua and I are irreconcilable. If I join the House of Marquis Qin, I'll simply walk into a trap. Zhuowen's resolute refusal made the 9th Commandery Princess's pretty face turn even paler. Her lips trembled, but she did not say anything in the end. Haha, young Master Zhuo, you're indeed a man of noble character and unquestionable integrity. You can even refuse the invitation of the House of Marquis Qin. No wonder you could refuse Qing Lian's invitation so decisively in the cave mansion. An Oriole-like laughter slowly sounded. Qing Lian, whose face was covered by a veil, walked out of the group. Her beautiful watery eyes stared straight at Zhuowen. The forces behind those thousands of warriors can be controlled by the Jade Lady Star Court for you. In the future, they won't cause trouble for the Zhuo family. Hearing this, Zhuowen's eyes moved slightly. He said in a low voice, Miss Qing Lian, you're really brave. But I've said that I won't join the Jade Lady Star Court, let alone any other forces. Young Master Zhuo, don't worry. I'm not asking you to join the Jade Lady Star Court. I just want you to owe us a favor. For you to be able to defeat LV Yuanhua at such a young age already shows that you have boundless potential. Qing Lian is certain that in the Essence Chi Tower battle 2 years later, you will definitely shine brilliantly. So, in the Battle of the Vitality Tower in 2 years, I hope young Master Zhua can help us. What do you think? This is a fair deal. When Qing Lian spoke until here, she actually winked in a rather playful manner. That moment of charm immediately caused the eyes of quite a number of martial artists to reveal an intoxicated expression. Zhuowen was stunned, and a trace of joy appeared on his face. Qing Lian's condition just solved Zhuowen's current problem. In terms of trump cards, Zhuowen was no longer afraid of Heavenly King Realm warriors. Perhaps even a half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm warrior would not be a threat to him. Moreover, the county capital was so far away from Vine Armor City. If those forces wanted to capture him, Zhuowen could completely avoid them. However, the Zhua family could not. After all, the Zhua family had thousands of people. They could not hide like him. If the forces in the county capital could not find Zhuowen, they would definitely find the Zhua family to settle the score. Qing Lian's proposal was what Zhuowen wanted. Zhuowen thought for a moment, then nodded and said, "Thank you, Miss Qing Lian. This time, Zhuowen owes the Jade Lady Star Court a favor. In the Battle of the Vitality Tower in 2 years, this one will definitely do his best to help the Jade Lady Star Court." Seeing that Zhuowen had agreed, a smile appeared on Qing Lian's pretty face. It was like 100 flowers blooming. After saying that, Zhuowen did not say anything else. With a stomp of his foot, his entire body shot into the distance like an arrow released from a bow. Now, Zhuowen was in a hurry to return to the Zhua family. He knew that the news of him obtaining the Earth-rank soul treasure would spread very quickly. At that time, the Zhua family would most likely become the target of public criticism. Zhuowen had gained a lot in the ancient cave mansion. More importantly, Zhuowen had collected a considerable amount of puppet materials in his Qianquan bag. He knew that if he wanted to increase the strength of the Zhua family, he would have to refine puppets first. Once he refined a large number of Human King and Earth King puppets, Zhuowen would not be afraid, even if the forces around Rattan Armor City were to stir up trouble. Looking at Zhuowen's gradually disappearing figure, the atmosphere in the open space suddenly became much more relaxed. Lingju looked at the somewhat dispirited Lu Yuanhua in her arms and sighed softly. Zhuowen is really a dragon among men. If he does not fall, he will have a place among the experts of the Qing Xian Empire in the future. Surprisingly, when Lingju spoke, no one in the open space refuted her words. Instead, they lowered their heads and fell into deep thought. Chapter 242. To justify oneself, a cool breeze gently blew past, lifting up the dusky yellow leaves on the ground, indicating that it was already autumn. Whoosh! At this moment, there were already many youths in the Zhua family's large martial arts practice field. They were constantly waving their arms, and waves of fist wind whistled out, as if they were tearing through the air. The sound was neat and distant, and it was like a symphony that resounded in the martial arts practice field. Within the training grounds, a middle-aged man with a tall and straight figure stood proudly. His slightly focused gaze contained some coldness, as he looked at the many youths within the training grounds who were displaying their postures and whistling fist winds. The middle-aged man was the eldest son of the Zhua family. He was also Zhuowen's uncle, Zhuo Baitian. Ever since the birth of the Zhua family's Zhuowen, there had been countless incidents and sensations in Rattan Armor City. All the young warriors in Rattan Armor City looked up to Zhuowen as their role model. They all imagined that one day, they would be as talented as Zhuowen. As for the Zhua family members, they were naturally the most enthusiastic. Countless of the younger generation in the family had set off a frenzy of cultivation. Even some of the younger generation, who had never cultivated before, had proposed to cultivate one after another. After all, in every youth's heart, there was a dream of becoming a hero, and Zhuowen was the hero that they wanted to become the most. At the age of 15, he had emerged as an outer sect disciple and defeated the strongest member of the Zhua family, Zhuo Tian. In the Battle of the Market, he had fought against the combined forces of 5 people from the Wang family alone, and won the final victory. In the Battle of the Wang family, Zhuowen had fought against 2 cultivators of the King Realm, and finally wiped out the Wang family and the Chen family from Rattan Armor City. Such a glorious battle record had already made many people of the same age, and even the older generation feel ashamed. In just 1 year, Zhuowen, an unknown member of the Zhuo family's younger generation, had become a first-class expert in Rattan Armor City. He had even secured the position of the strongest person in the younger generation. Therefore, the Zhuo family had once set off a frenzy of cultivation. Almost all of the younger generation had gathered in the martial arts practice field to learn the basics of martial arts. As the eldest son of the Zhuo family, Zhuo Xiangding had naturally pushed Zhuo Baitian out to teach these hot-blooded youths. Dang dang dang. The sound of hurried footsteps suddenly broke the atmosphere of the martial arts practice field. Zhuo Baitian frowned slightly and looked at the entrance of the martial arts practice field with slight displeasure. At the entrance, 3 people suddenly walked in. Looking at the 3 people who had suddenly barged in, the displeasure on Zhuo Baitian's face instantly froze and was immediately replaced by shock. This was because the 3 people who had appeared at the entrance were the governor of Rattan Armor City, Gu Yutian, the vice-governor, Gu Lai, and the lofty grandmaster Tsang Mu. The 3 most prestigious people in Rattan Armor City had actually all come. The displeasure on Zhuo Baitian's face instantly disappeared. His face immediately beamed with happiness as he quickly stepped forward to welcome them. He said respectfully, "Governor, Vice-Governor and Grandmaster Tsang Mu, I didn't expect the 3 of you to have time to come to our Zhuo family. May I know the reason for your visit?" There was a trace of urgency on the 3 people's faces. With Zhuo Baitian's ability to observe people's expressions, he naturally noticed it immediately. He couldn't help but feel a knot in his heart, as he faintly had a bad premonition. "Baitian, is your family head here? We have an important matter to discuss." Gu Yutian's face was full of seriousness as he said rather seriously, "The family head has always been in the Battle Spirit Pavilion? For the 3 of you to come here in such a hurry, what has happened?" Zhuo Baitian's heart skipped a beat as he asked cautiously, "Let's go. Bring us to the Battle Spirit Pavilion. This matter is of great importance and must be discussed with the Zhuo family head." Grandmaster Tsang Mu's eyes narrowed as he said cautiously, "All right, I will bring the 3 of you to the Battle Spirit Pavilion." Seeing the seriousness in the 3's tone, Zhuo Baitian also knew that the important matter they were talking about was definitely not ordinary. Therefore, Zhuo Baitian casually called out to the young man in the martial arts practice field and hurriedly brought the 3 of them to the depths of the Zhuo family. "I didn't expect the governor, vice-governor, and Grandmaster Tsang Mu to come to our Zhuo family. I really didn't expect our Zhuo family to be so influential. Our Zhuo family has now become the #1 family in Vine Armor City. The other factions simply cannot stand shoulder to shoulder with our Zhuo family. Our strength has already faintly caught up to the City Lord's mansion. It is only natural that we are able to obtain the City Lord's attention. Don't forget that the reason our Zhuo family has the status and power we have today is all because of Senior Zhuowen. Otherwise, our Zhuo family would not have the honor to have the 3 strongest people in Rattan Armor City gather at the Zhuo family. Yes, Senior Zhuowen is the pride of our Zhuo family. Moreover, he is so young. If I could have 1% of Senior Zhuowen's strength, no 1,000th of it, I would be satisfied." Watching the 4 people leave in a hurry, the young men in the martial arts practice field also began to discuss noisily. When they talked about Zhuowen, their faces were filled with respect and admiration. They knew very well that the reason the Zhuo family could become so prosperous was because of Zhuowen. The Battle Spirit Pavilion was located in the deepest part of the Zhuo family. It was an extremely large courtyard. In the center of the courtyard was a rather magnificent pavilion. At this moment, on the top floor of the pavilion, an old man with white hair slowly opened his eyes. His bright gaze stared straight outside the courtyard. "I didn't expect Gu Yutian, Gu Lai, and Grandmaster Tsang Mu to come visit at the same time. Could it be that something big has happened? Could it be that this big matter is related to our Zhuo family?" The old man was the head of the Zhuo family, Zhuo Xiangding. After muttering a few words, Zhuo Xiangding took a step forward and disappeared from the pavilion. Under Gu Yutian's lead, the trio finally arrived at the Battle Spirit Pavilion. At this moment, in the courtyard before the Battle Spirit Pavilion, Zhuo Xiangding was already standing there with his head held high and his chest puffed out. He looked at the four people with a smile on his face. You don't visit a temple without a cause. For the three of you to suddenly come to my Zhuo family, you must have something important to discuss. Zhuo Xiangding smiled slightly. With a flick of his finger, a golden light flashed out. A stone table and 5 stone stools appeared in front of him. The head of the Zhuo family is indeed astute. This time, we do have something extremely important to discuss. Moreover, this matter is related to Zhuowen, Gu Yutian said with an extremely solemn expression after they sat down. It's about Zhuowen? Did something happen to Zhuowen? I remember that half a month ago, he left the Zhuo family for the ancient cave dwelling. Could it be that he met with danger in the ancient cave dwelling? When he heard that it was about Zhuowen, Zhuo Xiangding's body suddenly tensed up as he spoke with a nervous expression. Gu Yutian, Gu Lai, and Grandmaster Tsangmu looked at each other. However, a trace of a bitter smile appeared on their faces as they said, "Do you think that kid Zhuowen will die so easily with his character? You can rest assured that Zhuowen is alive and well. However, that kid has gotten into big trouble." Hearing Gu Yutian's meaning, Zhuowen was fine. Only then did Zhuo Xiangding relax. However, Gu Yutian's following words caused Zhuo Xiangding's heart to fiercely clench. Zhuowen has gotten into trouble. Just what did he do? According to the information that my spies have gathered, Zhuowen should have obtained the most precious treasure in the ancient cave dwelling, an earthly soul treasure. Hiss! Earthly soul treasure? When Zhuo Xiangding and Zhuo Baitian heard this, they could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. It should be known that the entire Zhuo family, and even Tangjia City, did not possess a single high-rank soul treasure. Earthly soul treasures that were above high-rank soul treasures were basically things of legend in their eyes. How is that possible? I heard that many forces in the prefecture capital have sent experts to the ancient cave dwelling. Even the prefecture capital's 3 marquises, Jade Lady Star Court, and the Imperial Sword School have sent experts. Among so many experts, how could Zhuowen have the chance to obtain the earthly soul treasure in the ancient cave dwelling? After the shock, Zhuo Xiangding's face suddenly revealed a look of disbelief. It was very clear that the experts sent by the forces in the prefecture capital were all in the Human King realm. There were even many in the Earth King realm. Each of them could completely crush the Zhuo family. Actually, I also find it somewhat unbelievable. It is said that Zhuowen even viciously beat up Lu Yuanhua of the house of Marquis Qin in front of everyone. Now, I'm afraid that Zhuowen's strength has reached an unfathomable level, Gu Yutian said bitterly. Boom! Zhuo Xiangding and Zhuo Baitian's minds suddenly exploded. Their eyes bulged, and their eyes were filled with disbelief. Zhuo Xiangding's lips trembled as he said, "The Lu Yuanhua you are talking about is the 3rd prince of the house of Marquis Qin. The Lu Yuanhua, whose strength has reached the complete Earth King realm? Yes, it is that Lu Yuanhua. This matter is definitely not a rumor. Everyone saw it with their own eyes." The bitterness on Gu Yutian's face grew increasingly intense. Zhuo Wen's battle results were simply too dazzling. So dazzling that Gu Yutian wished that Zhuo Wen was his own son. He even defeated Lu Yuanhua, who is at the complete Earth King realm. How did Zhuo Wen's progress become so fast? Zhuo Xiangding's eyes were lifeless as he muttered in a low voice. This is just the beginning. It is said that when Zhuo Wen walked out of the ancient cave mansion, he was surrounded by thousands of experts. These experts were sent by the forces of the province. The weakest of them was at the Human King realm, and the strongest was at the complete Earth King realm. Before Gu Yutian could finish his words, he was involuntarily interrupted by Zhuo Xiangding. Zhuo Xiangding's eyes were red as he angrily said, "Thousands of experts surrounded a young man. These experts of the province's forces are really good. Lord Gu, what is the final result? Did Zhuowen escape from the encirclement of thousands of people?" "Father, Lord Gu has just said that Zhuowen is not dead. Obviously, this kid has definitely escaped from the encirclement of thousands of experts. It seems that this kid has gained a lot in the ancient cave mansion. He was actually able to escape from the encirclement of thousands of Human King realm experts." "That's right. It seems that the disaster that Lord Gu is talking about should be the threat of thousands of experts. After all, if those experts can't find Zhuowen, it is very likely that they will use our Zhuo family to threaten Zhuowen. Zhuo Xiangding also recovered from his bottleneck and said in a deep voice, Gu Yutian, and the other two looked at the father and son in front of them with strange expressions on their faces. Zhuo Xiangding also noticed the strange expressions on the faces of Gu Yutian and the other two. He frowned slightly and asked, Lord Gu, is the result not like this? Gu Yutian laughed dryly and said, Zhuowen did not escape. In the end, he annihilated thousands of experts at the entrance of the cave mansion. Chapter 243. Arcane Ceremony. Dang. Zhuo Xiangding suddenly stood up, knocking over the stone stool beside his feet. He stared straight at Gu Yutian, his lips trembling as he asked, You're saying that those thousands of cultivators who were all at the Human King realm and above were all annihilated by Zhuowen alone? Gu Yutian's elbows were also trembling at this moment. Clearly, Gu Yutian's words were too impactful. Those were thousands of Human King realm cultivators. And there were even quite a number of Earth King realm cultivators among them. How could such a force be annihilated by Zhuowen alone? It's absolutely true. Zhuowen relied on the Earth rank soul treasure he obtained from the ancient cave mansion to annihilate those thousands of Human King realm cultivators in one fell swoop. At this moment, Gu Yutian's eyes shone with a blazing light. When he spoke of Zhuowen's battle achievements, even he couldn't help but feel a surge of emotion. Annihilating an army of thousands of people with the strength of a single person, such a battle achievement would make one's blood boil just thinking about it. On the other hand, Gu Lai's expression was complicated and fearful. When he heard of Zhuowen's battle achievements, he also thought that there was something wrong with his ears. Now, Gu Lai couldn't help but think of the stubborn young man who dared to raise his head and hold his chest high during the battle of the city square. The stubborn young man in his mind overlapped with the young man who annihilated thousands of cultivators with the strength of a single person. Gu Lai suddenly let out an involuntary sigh. He began to regret his actions of offending the young man back then. As for the disaster that I mentioned, it is because of this. Those thousands of practitioners were basically experts sent out by the various factions in the province. Now that Zhuowen has annihilated all of them, he has offended the majority of the factions in the province. I'm afraid that those factions in the province will not let this matter rest, and will do harm to your Zhuo family. I think that your Zhuo family had better make plans as soon as possible. Gu Yutian sighed softly as he spoke somewhat helplessly. After a long time, Zhuo Xiangding recovered from his shock and suddenly said heroically, It seems that this is indeed troublesome. However, our Zhuo family isn't afraid. At worst, we'll fight against those forces. As long as Zhuowen is fine, our Zhuo family will definitely rise. What's wrong with sacrificing the current Zhuo family? That's right. The reason our Zhuo family has become so prosperous is all thanks to Zhuowen. As long as he's fine, the rise of our Zhuo family is only a matter of time. Zhuo Baitian also stood up and said with a stern expression, looking at the resolute expressions of the two people in front of him. Gu Yutian and the other two sighed. They finally understood just how extraordinary Zhuowen's position in the Zhuo family was. Just as Gu Yutian was about to say something, he suddenly tilted his head and looked at the horizon with a grave expression. He frowned and said, There's a very powerful aura rushing over here. This aura is at least at the Earth King stage. As soon as Gu Yutian said this, the few people present couldn't help but stand up and look at the horizon. They saw that in the distance, a black dot was constantly rushing towards them. Its speed was as fast as lightning. When the black shadow got closer, the few people finally saw the true face of the black shadow. It was actually Zhuowen, who had rushed back to the Zhuo family without stopping. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, Zhuowen arrived above the Zhuo family. With a leap, he appeared in the courtyard of the Battle Spirit Pavilion. Zhuowen could feel the aura of Gu Yutian and the others from afar. Therefore, as soon as he returned to the Zhuo family, Zhuowen directly went to the Battle Spirit Pavilion. Zhuowen, Zhuo Xiangding, and Zhuo Baitian took a step forward and arrived in front of him. They carefully sized up the youth who had created a glorious battle record in front of them. You've actually reached the Earth King stage? And you really obtained the Earth-rank soul treasure of the ancient cave dwelling? You even annihilated several thousand warriors at the Human King stage and above? Zhuo Xiangding's hands trembled as he placed them on Zhuo Wen's shoulders. Zhuo Wen was slightly startled. He didn't expect that Zhuo Xiangding would receive the news so quickly. However, after seeing Gu Yutian, Gu Lai and Grandmaster Kuraki behind him, he knew that the three of them must have told Zhuo Xiangding the news. After all, with the City Lord's mansion's ability to gather information, they would naturally be able to gather information outside the cave dwelling without leaking a single drop of information. Yes, hearing this, Zhuo Wen naturally nodded his head subconsciously, although the few of them were mentally prepared. When they saw Zhuo Wen personally nod his head at this moment, they couldn't help but feel their hearts tug violently. Zhuo Wen, then what do you plan to do next? You've killed those experts. I'm afraid that the forces in the prefecture capital won't let this matter rest. It's very likely that they will come looking for trouble. Gu Yutian's gaze was strange as he spoke with some concern. You can rest assured. Miss Qing Lian of the Jade Lady Star Court once promised me that her sect is willing to contain the forces of the prefecture capital, so that they won't come looking for trouble with our Zhuo family. However, what I'm worried about is the battle for the Vitality Tower in 2 years. At that time, I'll have to go to the prefecture capital. At that time, I'm afraid that I'll become a target for everyone. Zhuo Wen frowned as he spoke until here. Hee. Kid, you've forgotten your identity as an arcanist. With your talent, you should be able to become a third-rank arcanist within 2 years. At that time, you only need to go to the Arcanist Guild to take the test and obtain the badge of a third-rank arcanist. With this identity, even the House of Marquis Qin won't dare to touch you at will when you arrive at the prefecture capital. Master Kuraki, who had been silent all this time, suddenly spoke with a face full of pride. After all, in the Qingxian Empire, a fourth-rank arcanist status was comparable to that of an ordinary noble. A third-rank arcanist who was slightly weaker would naturally have a high status. Even a noble might not have the right to casually kill a third-rank arcanist. Hearing this, Zhuo Wen's heart suddenly became clear. Master Kuraki was right. As long as he obtained the badge of a third-rank arcanist in the Arcanist Guild, his status would definitely be elevated by a lot. Even the House of Marquis Qin wouldn't dare to touch him at will. I actually forgot about this. Master Kuraki, let's go to the Arcanist Guild to take the test in a few days. This time, I should be able to obtain the badge of a third-rank arcanist. Zhuo Wen looked at Master Kuraki in front of him and said with a smile, Kid, there's no need to be in such a hurry. Your mental strength has already reached the peak of the second rank. 2 years is enough for you to break through the shackles and reach the third rank. At that time, you can take the test and obtain the badge of a third-rank arcanist. Wait, kid, what did you say just now? Master Kuraki patted Zhuo Wen's shoulder and said in a somewhat earnest manner. However, halfway through his words, the hand on Zhuo Wen's shoulder suddenly stiffened. His eyes suddenly widened as he stared straight at the young man in front of him. Zhuo Wen shrugged and said, During the battle for the ancient cavern, I was lucky enough to break through to the third-rank Arcanist Guild. Therefore, I should be able to take the test of a third-rank arcanist now. Hiss, hiss, hiss. At this moment, the sound of people inhaling cold air suddenly rose and fell. Not only Master Kuraki, but also Gu Yutian and Gu Lai beside him, Zhuo Xiangding, and the other three also stiffened at this moment. Their pupils shrank slightly as they stared at the young man in front of them. The atmosphere instantly became somewhat strange and quiet. You said that your mental strength has already broken through to the third rank. Is this true? Master Kuraki's lips trembled violently as he asked with a sudden burst of light in his eyes. Spreading out his hands, Zhuo Wen's mind moved. Mental strength as vast as the starry sky in his Naiwan palace suddenly poured out and filled the entire courtyard. Suddenly, an invisible pressure was produced. Under this pressure, the few people could not help but bend their knees slightly, and their faces were filled with horror. It really is a third-rank mental strength. Zhuo Wen, I really don't know what words to use to express my current feelings. I only want to say that you are too monstrous. The corner of Master Karaki's mouth twitched, and he could not help but burst out laughing as he cursed. However, looking at the hearty smile on his face, it also showed the joy in Master Karaki's heart. After all, Zhuowen was his disciple. The more outstanding his disciple was, the happier he would be as his master, and the more face he would have. Good. This is also good. Since your mental strength has already reached the 3rd rank, then we will depart for Broken Rock City in a month's time. There is an Arcanist Association branch in that city, and the chairman of the Arcanist Association branch is an old acquaintance of yours. Stroking his long white beard, Master Karaki said with a hearty smile. Zhuowen nodded, and then asked with some doubt, "Why do we have to depart in a month's time?" Haha. In a month's time, Broken Rock City will hold the Arcanist ceremony for the younger generation. I want you to participate in that Arcanist ceremony. You should know that if you are able to obtain victory in the ceremony, the reward is a 4th rank yuan array. Master Karaki stroked his beard and said with a smile, "Arcanist ceremony? The reward is actually a 4th rank yuan array?" When Zhuowen heard this, a glint immediately flashed across his eyes. In the ancient cave dwelling, Zhuowen had once witnessed the might of the 4th rank yuan array, golden armored general array. Under the effects of this array, Lu Yuanhua, whose strength was merely at the earthly king stage, was actually able to explosively increase his strength to the ultimate emperor stage. This kind of heaven-defying effect really shocked Zhuowen. Therefore, when he heard about the 4th rank yuan array, Zhuowen naturally coveted it in his heart. He fiercely nodded and said, "Then we will depart in a month's time." In any case, Zhuowen was not in a hurry. After all, he still needed to hand over some of the resources he obtained from the ancient cave dwelling to Zhuo Xiangding before he left. He wanted to ensure that after he left, the Zhuo family had a certain amount of strength that could withstand the attacks of some factions with ill intentions in the outside world. Only then could he leave with a peace of mind. Late at night, the sky was filled with stars. In a secluded loft, Zhuowen sat quietly with his legs crossed. At this moment, his hands were holding a dim yellow map. Xiaohei, the Wind Thunder Emperor left a message in his stone coffin. The secret of the Wind Thunder sacred symbol is hidden in the map of the cave dwelling. Why can't I see anything special about this map no matter how I look at it? Do you think that the Wind Thunder Emperor has nothing better to do and is trying to trick us? Gently putting down the map, Zhuowen softly sighed as he looked at Xiaohei, who was floating in midair, and said, "Trick your head. The Wind Thunder Emperor has been dead for tens of thousands of years. Do you think he has the time to trick a junior like you? In his eyes, you are just an ant-like existence." Xiaohei's little paw knocked on Zhuowen's head and shouted loudly. Chapter 244. 6 Wings of Wind and Thunder. You're right. Perhaps the power of lightning can change this map. Furthermore, this dragon lord has probed it. The material of this map is extremely special. I'm afraid that even a heavenly king stage practitioner would not be able to tear this map apart. Xiaohei's black eyes shone with a dazzling light. Let's test it out with the 9 Heavens Thunder Inferno. I hope it's as you say. This map is indeed tough. After pondering for a moment, Zhuowen's mind moved. The 9 Heavens Thunder Inferno in his body immediately surged and boiled. Soon after, Zhuowen's palm was wrapped in a ball of blue lightning. With the help of the Ice Fire sacred symbol, Zhuowen could control the 9 Heavens Thunder Inferno very easily. It was as if he was commanding it with his own arm. Chi-chi, chi-chi. Zhuowen's eyes flickered. Finally his right hand, which was wrapped in lightning, slowly approached the edge of the map. With a strange crackling sound, the dim yellow surface of the map was completely wrapped in lightning. Traces of numbing explosions suddenly rang out. What's going on? The map couldn't have been destroyed by the lightning, right? Looking at the map that was instantly wrapped in lightning, a look of panic immediately appeared on Zhuowen's face. This map contained the secrets and clues of the Wind Lightning sacred symbol. If it was destroyed just like that, who would Zhuowen cry to? Bang! An ear-piercing explosion suddenly rang out. The map that was wrapped in lightning actually exploded at this moment. Traces of black dust scattered. Amidst the countless black dust, a dark blue metal piece suddenly appeared. The metal piece was about the size of a palm. Its surface was engraved with strange runes. Traces of electricity were like small snakes that constantly swam on the surface of the metal piece. It seems that this cave-dwelling map does indeed contain something. But what is this thing? Looking at the floating blue metal piece that was constantly emitting traces of electricity, Zhuowen's eyes suddenly lit up. A trace of joy immediately appeared on his face. I can sense that this metal piece has a trace of the wind lightning sacred symbol's aura. However, this aura is extremely weak. Xiaohe rubbed his chin as he spoke with uncertainty. Kid, you can use your mental power to investigate. Perhaps you'll be able to discover something useful. Rolling his eyes, Zhuowen did not waste any more time. With a thought, the mental energy in his Naiwan palace poured out and shot into the metal plate. Buzz! As soon as his mental power came into contact with the metal piece immediately trembled and emitted a loud buzzing sound. Then the electric threads on its surface suddenly appeared crazily and countless electric threads spread out in a dense manner. Zhuowen was startled. He hurriedly waved his hand and flung the piece of metal away. His eyes were filled with fear as he looked at the piece of metal floating in the air. He hadn't expected the metal piece's reaction to be so great. What's going on? Zhuowen muttered with his brows tightly knitted. However, just as he finished speaking, the electric threads on the surface of the metal piece became even more violent. The densely packed electric threads actually formed densely packed words in the air. The words were only the size of a thumb, and at a glance, there were at least a few hundred of them. I have split the wind lightning sacred symbol into 6 parts. With my tens of thousands of years of comprehension and experience, I have finally successfully integrated the 6 great origins of the wind lightning sacred symbol into my self-created cultivation method. I have named this cultivation method 6 Wings of Wind and Lightning. If you have successfully studied the 6 wings of wind and lightning, then you will be able to obtain the complete wind lightning sacred symbol. The 6 wings of wind and lightning is divided into 2 major categories, namely thunder wings and wind wings. Thunder wings are composed of thunder snake wings, thunder dragon wings and thunder dragon wings. If you have cultivated thunder wings, then you will have the speed of thunder and can travel thousands of miles in an instant. Wind wings are composed of wind bird wings, wind eagle wings and phoenix wings. If you have cultivated wind wings, then you will be able to roam freely in the world. After carefully reading the words formed by the lightning in the air, Zhuowen's eyes narrowed slightly. He muttered to himself in astonishment. The wind lightning sacred symbol is really bold. He can actually integrate such a supreme treasure of heaven and earth, like the wind lightning sacred symbol, into his cultivation method. He is indeed very powerful. It seems that I have underestimated the wind lightning sacred symbol. The wind lightning sacred symbol can be modified by himself. The wind lightning sacred symbol is the first person in history. He has an extremely profound understanding of the law of heaven and earth. If he is still alive, it is very likely that he will become a warrior who can comprehend the law of heaven and earth and become a god. Xiaohe suddenly said with a solemn expression. Zhuowen nodded. Although he didn't know much about Emperor Wind Thunder, he could tell from the handwriting that Emperor Wind Thunder was a carefree person who didn't stick to one pattern. Even though the Saint Talisman was regarded as a treasure by others, he didn't care about the consequences of breaking it. According to the wind lightning sacred symbol, has been integrated into the 6 wings of wind and lightning cultivation method. Therefore, if I want to obtain the wind lightning sacred symbol, I have to cultivate and comprehend the 6 wings of wind and lightning cultivation method. Zhuowen pondered for a while and said with a slight frown. I'm afraid so. However, the metal piece in your hand is obviously incomplete. In other words, you have only obtained a part of the 6 wings of wind and lightning. This dragon lord knew that it wouldn't be that easy to obtain the sacred talisman. It is the same for the ice fire sacred symbol and the wind lightning sacred symbol. Looking at the broken metal piece in Zhuowen's hand, Xiaohe said with a sigh. Zhuowen also smiled bitterly. It was just as Xiaohe had said. What was recorded on the blue metal plate was merely one of the chapters of the 6 wings of wind and lightning. It was called lightning snake wings. It was said that if one cultivated the lightning snake wings to a high level, enormous lightning wings that were formed from countless lightning snakes would condense on one's back. Although its speed was not as fast as lightning, it was not to be outdone either. Zhuowen knew that if he were to complete it, even a heavenly king stage cultivator would be left far behind by him. Furthermore, the countless lightning snakes had the effect of attacking and slowing down the enemy, which could be said to be a good thing for escaping. Among the 9 great sacred symbols, the ice-fire sacred symbol was a type of sacred symbol that was extremely destructive. However, the wind-lightning sacred symbol was different. Wind and lightning were 2 types of energy that were extremely fast in the world. This also resulted in the wind-lightning sacred symbol's owner's speed. The person who possessed the wind-lightning sacred symbol had unparalleled speed in the world. If it was fully displayed, it could even shatter the void and travel through space. On the other hand, the wind-lightning sacred symbol had been integrated into the 6 wings of wind and lightning. Relatively speaking, it was more suitable for warriors to cultivate. After all, refining the sacred symbol had a certain degree of danger. In this regard, the wind-lightning sacred symbol could be said to be the pioneer of the sacred symbol. The 6 wings of wind and lightning is, after all, a fusion of the origin of the wind and lightning sacred symbol. If you cultivate it completely, it is said that you can have 6 wings on your back. They are the lightning snake wings, lightning flood dragon wings, lightning dragon wings, wind bird wings, wind eagle wings, and phoenix wings. Once the 6 wings are assembled, you will have the full power of the wind and lightning sacred symbol. Shattering the void would shatter the void, Xiao He said with a hint of admiration in her eyes. Even so, I only have the lightning snake wings technique in my hands. The 6 wings of wind and lightning is incomplete. At this point, Zhuowen could not help but reveal a trace of bitterness at the corner of his mouth. Kid, are you stupid? The 6 chapters of the 6 wings of wind and lightning are made from the origin of the wind and lightning sacred symbol. There must be a trace of connection between them. Now that you have the lightning snake wings, it will naturally be easy to find the remaining 5 chapters. Once you've completely mastered the lightning snake wings, you'll naturally be able to sense the other 5 great chapters. Xiao He gave Zhuowen a big roll of her eyes and said with some disappointment, "That's true. Looks like I need to cultivate the lightning snake wings first." Ignoring Xiao He's ridicule, Zhuowen nodded indifferently. Time flew by, and a month passed in the blink of an eye. During this 1 month, the entire Tengjia city, and even the surrounding factions were in an uproar. The reason was because of the fight for the ancient cave mansion. Zhuowen's various feats had spread throughout the area within a 10,000-mile radius of Tengjia city. Even some of the neighboring low-rank cities were abuzz with the news. He had barged into the cave dwelling alone and obtained the earthly soul treasure from the various forces in the province capital. He had even violently beaten up the 3rd prince of the house of Marquis Qin, Lu Yuanhua. The most shocking thing was that Zhuowen had single-handedly annihilated thousands of human King Realm warriors, including some Earth King Realm warriors. Such a glorious battle record had practically spread throughout Rattan Armor City and the surrounding areas. Zhuowen's reputation had also risen because of this. Everyone knew that the Zhuo family of Rattan Armor City had a peerless, ruthless person named Zhuowen. In addition, the province capital was also in an uproar. When a few warriors returned to the province capital in a daze, all the forces in the province capital were shocked. Thousands of human King Realm warriors had been annihilated in just 1 move. Even a large force like the House of Marquis Qin would feel heartache, not to mention the forces under the House of Marquis Qin. Zhuowen's reputation had also spread throughout the province capital because of this. Just as some forces were about to seek revenge on Zhuowen, the Jade Lady Astral Court stepped in to stop them. With the influence of the Jade Lady Astral Court in the province capital, these forces who wanted to stir up trouble immediately ceased their activities. After all, the overall strength of the Jade Lady Astral Court was not weaker than the super forces of the 3 marquises of the province capital. It was the appearance of the Jade Lady Astral Court that caused many forces in the province capital to speculate about the identity of Zhuowen, who they had never met before. Naturally, the identity of Zhuowen had become very mysterious in the eyes of many forces in the province capital. In the province capital, the Jade Lady Astral Court was located on a star peak that was tens of thousands of feet high. Countless pavilions and towers loomed on the star peak, appearing illusory and ethereal. At the top of the star peak, in a huge palace surrounded by starlight, a graceful beauty with snow-white skin was standing quietly in the palace. She was looking at the endless sea of fog outside with her hands behind her back. This woman was called Luoxing. She was the strongest among the younger generation of the Jade Lady Astral Court. Her cultivation had reached the unfathomable Ultimate Emperor realm. At the same time, she was ranked 30th on the Green Emperor list. It could be said that she was a seated contestant in the battle for the Vitality Tower. Luoxing's jade-like hand gently stroked her hair. She opened her cherry lips and said indifferently, "Qinglian, this time you rashly intervened in so many forces just for Zhuowen from a low-level city? Do you really think this kid is worth our Jade Lady Star Court paying such a high price?" Chapter 245. Chapter 245. Heavenly Spirits and Earthly Fiends. Qinglian bit her lower lip with her pearly white teeth and said firmly, "Senior Sister Luoxing, even though Zhuowen is only from a low-grade city, the natural talent and strength he displayed is already comparable to most of the geniuses in our county. Furthermore, Zhuowen is only 16 years old. To be able to defeat Lu Yuanhua at such a young age is already enough to show his great potential." Only 16 years old, he can actually defeat Lu Yuanhua? Luoxing's star-like eyes flashed as he muttered to himself in surprise. Moreover, Zhuowen has a lot of trump cards on him. I can feel that in 2 years, this kid will definitely shine in the Essence Tower battle. Entering the top 100 will definitely not be a problem. He might even be able to enter the top 50. Qinglian's beautiful eyes flickered. She could not help but recall the ruthless scene of Zhuowen annihilating thousands of martial artists that day. "I didn't expect you to have such a high opinion of him. Muqing County is vast, and there are tens of thousands of cities within it. Even the super cities have hundreds of cities, and the number of geniuses is in the hundreds of thousands. Amongst so many geniuses, being able to enter the top 100 is already considered an outstanding talent, and being able to enter the top 50 is already considered a monstrous genius. There are only 5 or 6 people in our Jade Lady Star Court who can enter the top 50. Are you sure this kid has the strength to enter the top 50? So, Luoxing suddenly turned around. Her beautiful eyes contained an evil aura as she stared at the somewhat stubborn young lady in front of her. Her tone was somewhat heavy. At the same time, a faintly discernible powerful pressure suddenly burst out from her body, causing the entire palace to show signs of shaking. "Senior Sister Luoxing, I believe that Zhuowen has such potential. If he is unable to get into the top 50, Qinglian is willing to accept the punishment of the sect." A pressure that was like a mountain suddenly poured down. Qinglian let out a muffled groan as her knees bent slightly. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of her mouth, but she did not care. She only stubbornly stared at the falling star in front of her, without saying a word. "Sigh, I will believe you this time. I hope that this Zhuowen you speak of can really help our Jade Lady Star Court in 2 years. Otherwise I will personally kill him." Luoxing sighed softly. The mountain-like pressure on his body immediately receded like the tide. Feeling the pressure on her body recede, Qinglian's expression relaxed. Then, she cupped her hands and said respectfully, "Thank you for your understanding, Senior Sister Luoxing. Enough. You should also work hard. There are only 2 years until the Essence Energy Tower battle. If you can break through to the half-step Ultimate Emperor realm in these 2 years, entering the top 100 of the Essence Energy Tower battle won't be a problem." Luoxing's face regained its indifference as he waved his hand. "Thank you, Senior Sister, for your advice. Qinglian will work hard. Since this matter is over, Qinglian will withdraw first." Qinglian bowed slightly and once again spoke respectfully. "Go. You can be considered a talented genius of our Jade Lady Star Court. Don't slack off. Luo Xing didn't urge her to stay. Instead, she waved her hand and turned away, no longer looking at Qing Lian. After Qing Lian left the room, Luo Xing's beautiful eyes narrowed. There was a deep chill in the depths of her eyes. She muttered to herself, Zhuowen? I hope you can really satisfy me like Qing Lian said. Otherwise, I don't mind getting rid of you first. 10,000 feet to the east of the Jade Lady Star Court, a huge castle like a black dragon suddenly stood between the heavens and the earth. It was as if a coiled dragon could soar into the sky at any time. In front of the bluestone city gate, the words House of Marquis Qin were engraved on the top of the gate. A magnificent aura suddenly emanated from it. This castle, like a dormant dragon, was the House of Marquis Qin. Inside the Marquis mansion, there were many pavilions, terraces, and pavilions. Countless palaces protruded like mountains. It occupied a large area, almost hundreds of times the size of Rattan Armor City. It was just like a small city. Inside the House of Marquis Qin, in a rather luxurious pavilion, Lu Yuanhua sat beside a tea table. His face was smeared with dog skin plaster, looking very funny. Lu Yuanhua slammed the tea table and said to a young man opposite him with an angry face, Second brother, that Zhuowen is too arrogant. He dares to despise the authority of our House of Marquis Qin. He dares to beat me like this in front of so many people. If I don't catch him and cut him into pieces, it will be impossible to relieve the hatred in my heart. The young man wore a long green silk robe. His long hair casually draped over his shoulders. A faint smile appeared on his handsome white face like a cool breeze. This young man was Lu Yuanhua's second brother, the second prince of the House of Marquis Qin, Lu Yongsheng. He was also a powerhouse on the Qing Huang rankings. His strength was around the peak of the ultimate emperor realm. Don't think that LV Yongsheng is a good person just because he looks amiable on the surface. Actually, he is a guy who hides a knife in his smile. Perhaps when he stabs you in the back, he is also smiling. Lu Yongsheng's face was full of indifference as he said indifferently, He's just a nobody from a low-level city. Dealing with a nobody like him is as easy as moving a finger. Third brother, do you think I would chase after that Zhuowen for a nobody? Lu Yuanhua's expression changed. He said with some unwillingness, Second brother, I just can't accept it. That bastard Zhuowen dares to beat me in front of so many people. He's really too audacious. Are we just going to let him live freely like this? Didn't you say that Zhuowen will also participate in the Origin Qi Tower battle in 2 years? 2 years later, as long as we enter the Origin Qi Tower, we will have plenty of opportunities to kill that brat. Why are we in such a hurry? After all, these 2 years are very precious. If I can successfully break through to the ultimate emperor realm, a spot in the top 10 of the Origin Qi Tower battle won't be a problem. When LV Yongsheng said this, his eyes burst out with a trace of light, and the corners of his mouth revealed a trace of a faint smile. Oh, second brother, you're also going to break through? If you are able to break through, you will definitely be able to enter the top 10. In that case, our Muqin Marquis Mansion will occupy 2 of the top 10 spots this time around. It will definitely cause our Muqin Marquis Mansion's reputation to soar. LV Yuanhua was pleasantly surprised when he heard these words. Unexpectedly, Lu Yongsheng shook his head and said indifferently, It's not that easy to obtain a spot in the top 10. After all, Jade Maiden Star Court's Luo Xing, Imperial Sword Sex Zhu Qi, Marquis Baichuan's Su Tianliang, and Marquis Yongsheng's Qin Batian are all on the Azure Emperor leaderboard. In addition, there are also some experts on the Azure Emperor leaderboard in the top-ranked cities. I'm afraid that this year's Origin Qi Tower battle will be particularly fierce. Lu Yongsheng looked at Lu Yuanhua and said, Even Big Brother has started his closed-door training, so I can't slack off. Third brother, let's put aside the matter of revenge for now. With your talent, you should be able to reach the half-step Ultimate Emperor realm in 2 years. At that time, entering the top 100 won't be a problem. So let's first prepare for the Origin Qi Tower battle, then talk about revenge. After Lu Yongsheng finished speaking, he took a step and disappeared from the loft. Lu Yuanhua fell into deep thought. After a while, he coldly snorted and muttered to himself, second brother is right. The Origin Chi Tower battle is the most important thing. Humph. Then I'll let that bastard Zhuowen jump around for 2 more years. After 2 years, I'll let that bastard know what it's like to live a life worse than death. Early morning sprinkled a soft light. Rattan Armor City was empty and quiet as usual. At this moment, in the courtyard of the Zhuo family, the figure of a young man was quietly sitting cross-legged. Whoosh! The young man suddenly opened his eyes. His clear eyes were devoid of joy or sorrow. Then, with a twist of his waist, he lightly stepped on the ground and leaped into the air. He was 10 feet above the ground. In the air, the young man's hands instantly formed a few seals. A bolt of lightning flashed in his ethereal eyes. Lightning snake wings of the 6 wings of tempest. A low roar came from the young man's throat. Then countless bolts of lightning suddenly burst out from his body. The densely packed bolts of lightning transformed into countless huge lightning snakes. As the lightning snakes coiled around the young man's back, they condensed. In the end, a huge pair of lightning wings that extended for 10 feet appeared on the young man's back. Rumble! A thunderous roar exploded in the courtyard. The young man floated in the air. Countless lightning snakes could be faintly seen entwined on his 10-meter-long wings. An extremely powerful pressure poured out from him. With a light flap of the lightning wings, the young man's body suddenly left behind afterimages. Countless afterimages overlapped, as if there were countless clones. These afterimages were produced when one's speed reached its peak. At the same time, endless lightning shot out from the afterimages. In the blink of an eye, the young man's figure appeared on the other side of the courtyard. At this moment, when the young man turned his head, he could even see the afterimages left behind. The young man was Zhuowen. At this moment, a look of ecstasy appeared on Zhuowen's face. He laughed excitedly. The lightning snake wings have finally been refined. Now my speed can be considered as fast as lightning. I'm afraid that even a Heavenly King stage cultivator won't be able to catch my figure. I'm even confident that with this speed, I can escape from an ultimate Emperor stage expert. During this month, Zhuowen's life was quite fulfilling. In the morning, he cultivated the lightning snake wings. In the afternoon, he went to Grandmaster Tsangmu's place to refine crystals. At night, he used the materials in his Changquan bag to refine puppets. In a month's time, not only was Zhuowen able to skillfully refine a 3rd-grade origin crystal, he had even reached the initial level of mastery in the lightning snake wings, which was rather difficult to cultivate. What surprised Zhuo when the most was the aspect of puppets. With the guidance of the myriad evolution scripture, Zhuowen refined 108 puppets. They were a type of joint puppet formation called the heavenly spirits and earthly fiends. Among them, there were 36 heavenly spirits puppets, all at the Earth King stage. 72 earthly fiends puppets, all at the Human King stage. The 108 puppets had a unique joint attack technique. The strength they could unleash was comparable to a half-step ultimate Emperor stage expert. Chapter 246. Aunt Zhuo Meijin. The Zhuo family courtyard was filled with people, most of whom were members of the Zhuo family. At the front of the crowd were the core members of the Zhuo family, such as Zhuo Xiangding and Zhuo Baitian. Behind Zhuo Xiangding and the others, there were many juniors with fanatical and excited expressions. These juniors' eyes contained deep admiration as they looked at the figure at the entrance of the courtyard. This figure was not very old, only about 16 or 17 years old. His figure was tall and straight, and there was a faint smile on his handsome face. This person was Zhuowen. A month had already passed. Today, Zhuowen planned to follow Grandmaster Kuraki to Broken Rock City to take the Arcana test and obtain the badge of a 3rd-rank Arcanist. The badge was the status symbol of an Arcanist. With the badge, Zhuowen would have certain privileges and status no matter where he went in the Qing Xian Empire. As a result, obtaining the badge would be very convenient for Zhuowen when he went to the provincial capital 2 years later. After all, after the battle for the ancient cavern mansion, Zhuowen had offended most of the forces in the prefecture. Although these forces did not dare to cause trouble for Zhuowen because of the Jade Lady Star Court, if Zhuowen entered the prefecture, It would be like a lamb entering a tiger's den. Therefore, only by obtaining the badge of a level 3 arcanist could Zhuowen ensure that he would not become a target of public criticism when he entered the prefecture in 2 years. At this moment, there were already 2 people standing beside Zhuowen. One of them was Master Kuraki, and the other was the city lord of Rot-Tan Armor City, Guyu Tian. When he heard that Zhuowen was leaving today, Guyu Tian specially came to the Zhua family to send him off. As the city lord, the fact that he was able to do so showed how much importance Guyu Tian placed on Zhuowen. He had to be extra careful when he went to Broken Rock City. Even though Broken Rock City couldn't be compared to the provincial capital, it was still one of the top super cities in Muqing County. It was said that the city lord of Broken Rock City was an expert who had stepped into the ultimate emperor realm. Be more cautious. Don't provoke people you shouldn't provoke. Zhuo Xiangding's gaze was somewhat reluctant as he looked at the grandson in front of him, whom he was extremely proud of. However, after he spoke until this point, a trace of hesitation flashed across his face. Soon after, he took out a diamond-shaped jade pendant and handed it to Zhuowen. "Grandpa, this is..." Zhuowen looked at the diamond-shaped jade pendant in his palm. The word Jin was carved in the center of the jade pendant. The word was delicate and elegant, but there was a trace of doubt in his eyes. "This jade pendant is your aunt's personal jade pendant." When Zhuo Xiangding said this, his eyes flashed with a trace of guilt. "My aunt. I actually have an aunt. Why didn't I know about it?" Hearing this, the doubt in Zhuowen's heart grew even stronger. "That's because this old man hid information about your aunt from you. Your father had a younger sister named Zhuo Meijin. Back then, your father Zhuo Xiaotian was extremely talented and was the #1 person in our Zhuo family. Your aunt's talent was equally terrifying. Her cultivation speed was second only to your father's. She was also devastatingly beautiful. At that time, there were many talented young men in Rot-Tan Armor City who pursued her. What a pity. Good times don't last long. Your father went missing 10 years ago, and there has been no news of him ever since." The next year, the eldest son of the Zhao family, one of the 4 great families in Broken Rock City, Zhao Yaoding, came to ask for her hand in marriage. At that time, due to the influence of the Zhao family, Meijin finally agreed. At this point, Zhuo Xiangding suddenly clenched his fists so tightly that creaking sounds could be heard. He gritted his teeth and said, "I thought that Meijin would be happy after marrying into the Zhao family. However, who would have thought that half a year later, our Zhuo family would lose contact with Meijin? After that, we went to Broken Rock City many times to inquire about Meijin's situation. However, we were all chased away by the Zhao family. They even said that there was no such person as Zhuo Meijin in the Zhao family." Hearing this, Zhuowen's eyes instantly narrowed. He also did not expect that he actually had an aunt. After searching his mind for a long time, Zhuowen did indeed have a trace of recollection. 10 years ago, when he was still a child, he did indeed have an aunt who was very good to him. However, it was a long time ago, and Zhuowen was born in another body. Therefore, he did not pay much attention to that woman, who had a faint impression of him. Now that Zhuo Xiangding mentioned it, Zhuowen recalled some things. In other words, ever since aunt was married into the Zhao family, there has been no news of her? His gaze slightly narrowed, but Zhuowen sighed softly in his heart. He knew that it was very likely that his aunt had met with a mishap. Yes, your aunt was originally an exceptionally intelligent woman. If she wanted to leave, she would have definitely informed our Zhuo family. However, 10 years ago, it was as if she had disappeared from the face of the earth. I believe that Meijin's disappearance is related to the Zhao family. Therefore, when you go to Broken Rock City this time, you can investigate your aunt's whereabouts." Zhuo Xiangding's gaze was somewhat dim, as he said with a bitter smile, "Grandfather, don't worry. Since this matter concerns my aunt, I, Zhuowen, will naturally investigate." Zhuowen's eyes slightly narrowed as a trace of cold light flashed in them. Although he did not have much of an impression of this aunt of his, from what he remembered, his aunt and his father were very close. Back then, his rise to power was inextricably linked to his father Zhuowen. Furthermore, Zhuo Meijin was related to him by blood. Therefore, Zhuowen naturally had no choice but to investigate this matter. Seeing Zhuowen readily agree, Zhuo Xiangding's face was filled with joy. He knew that this time, Zhuowen would definitely have a chance to become a third-grade arcana master. With the status of a third-grade arcana master, it should not be difficult for him to find a woman in Broken Rock City. Grandfather, before I leave, I still have a few things to give you. Zhuowen suddenly patted his chinquan bag, and a large black shadow immediately scuttled out. Everyone looked over and saw that this black shadow was actually a man with a sluggish expression and listless eyes. This is a puppet. Looking at the sluggish man in front of him, Zhuo Xiangding asked tentatively. In the courtyard, many people's gazes gathered on the puppet, and a trace of curiosity appeared on their faces. After all, this was the first time they had seen the way of puppetry. I didn't expect Zhuo Xiaoyu to also know the way of puppetry. I heard that the art of puppetry was lost in ancient times. It seems that Zhuo Xiaoyu has gained a lot in the ancient cave. I wonder how powerful this puppet is. Gu Yutian, who was standing at the side, suddenly laughed heartily. His eyes contained a trace of shrewdness as he looked at the puppet. Lord Gu, you can test the strength of this puppet. If you are able to defeat this puppet, I can gift it to you. The corner of Zhuo Wen's mouth revealed a faint smile as he spoke in a faint voice. Oh, are you serious? When Gu Yutian heard this, a trace of emotion appeared on his face. With his sharp intuition, he could feel that the puppet in front of him was extraordinary. Its power should be comparable to an Earth King realm expert. Gu Yutian's strength was already at the advanced Earth King realm, and he was considered above average among Earth King realm experts. He was confident that he could deal with the puppet in front of him. Moreover, the thing that interested him the most was naturally defeating the puppet, and that was why Zhuowen wanted to gift it to him. If he could obtain a puppet whose strength was not inferior to a human king realm expert, the city lord's mansion's strength would naturally increase significantly. After all, the city lord's mansion only had him and Gu Lai who were above the human king realm. Of course, smiling faintly, Zhuowen replied noncommittally. Alright then, I will test the power of this puppet of yours. Gu Yutian was a straightforward person. When Zhuowen agreed, he got into his stance, and the aura of an Earth King realm expert burst out from his body. The air in the courtyard suddenly froze. Many members of the Zhuo family retreated continuously under this aura. Even Zhuo Xiangding and a few other members of the Zhuo family's upper echelons bent their knees. Their faces were grave. Obviously, the aura of an Earth King realm expert was too strong. Zhuo Wen and Master Karaki were probably the only two people who remained calm and collected. Boom! Gu Yutian's legs fiercely bounced off, as his entire body shot out like a spring. In an instant, he arrived above the puppet, as a whip leg flickered with a golden glow as it viciously swept downwards. In an instant, gusts of wind were stirred up, causing the expressions of several people to change. Is this an Earth King realm expert? I did not expect such a simple kick to be so powerful. I'm afraid that Senior Zhuowen's puppet will not be able to withstand such a powerful attack. After seeing the power of Gu Yutian's kick, many of the younger generation in the courtyard revealed looks of awe and yearning. As Gu Yutian's attack neared, the originally motionless puppet abruptly lowered its body, instantly dodging Gu Yutian's whip kick. Subsequently, its steel-like arms suddenly reached out, grabbing onto Gu Yutian's whip kick. With a ferocious twist of its shoulders, it viciously flung Gu Yutian away. Feeling the powerful force under his feet, Gu Yutian's expression changed drastically. He wanted to break free, but he realized that the puppet's arms were as strong as steel. They were indestructible. Boom! Gu Yutian suddenly smashed into the ground. Under the powerful force, a deep pit was formed and dust filled the air. Hiss! The courtyard instantly quieted down. Then, Zhuo Xiangding and the crowd behind him sucked in a breath of cold air. They were somewhat shocked as they looked at Gu Yutian's figure in the deep pit. Gu Yutian, the #1 expert in Vine Armor City, and an advanced Earth King realm expert, was actually defeated by an ordinary-looking puppet in one move. His figure was in a sorry state. Cough cough. A complete Earth King realm puppet. I did not expect Zhuo Xiaoyu to have such a powerful puppet. Guyu Tian slowly walked out of the deep pit. His figure was in a sorry state, and there was a trace of bitterness on his face. He looked at Zhuowen with even more fear. He did not expect Zhuowen to have such a powerful puppet. It seemed that he had underestimated the young man in front of him. Even Master Kuraki could not help but take another look at Zhuowen and the puppet behind him. Guyu Tian's strength was on par with his. If even Guyu Tian was defeated, then there was no need to talk about him. It seems that my disciple is quite amazing. Although he looked surprised, Master Kuraki was quite proud of himself as he thought to himself. Lord Gu, I'm sorry for offending you just now, Zhuowen said apologetically as he cupped his hands. Once the puppet attacked, it was very difficult to control. Zhuowen did not expect Guyu Tian to be defeated so easily. It's okay. In fact, I am not seriously injured. However, your Zhuo family is lucky. With this complete Earth King Realm puppet, I'm afraid that your Zhuo family's strength will rise to another level. Guyu Tian waved his hand and looked at the puppet with envy. I'm afraid it will not only rise to another level. Chapter 247. Unsheathing the blade. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. One after another, tall and straight puppets suddenly appeared in front of everyone. There were a total of 108 of them, and each of them emitted an extremely powerful aura. These puppets, there are actually so many of them? Zhuo Xiangding felt that his mind could not wrap itself around it. His pupils abruptly contracted as he stared at the numerous puppets in front of him, and muttered in a low voice. These puppets are called the Heavenly Dipper Earth Fiend. Among them, there are a total of 36 Heavenly Dipper Earth Fiend puppets, and all of them are at the perfect Earth King stage. There are a total of 72 Earth Fiend puppets, and all of them are at the perfect Human King stage. The 108 Heavenly Dipper Earth Fiend puppets have a combination skill. If they join forces, they will be able to unleash the Heavenly Dipper Earth Fiend formation. Even a Heavenly Dipper Earth Fiend formation would be killed by a Heavenly Dipper Earth Fiend formation. Zhuowen's voice slowly rang out in the courtyard. Guyu Tian's pupils contracted. He could not help but suck in a breath of cold air as he cried out in disbelief. Even a Heavenly Dipper Earth King stage warrior will die if he enters. Grandfather, you will be in charge of the Heavenly Dipper Earth Fiend formation. With the Heavenly Dipper Earth Fiend formation in the family, I want to see who dares to offend our Zhuo family while I'm away. At this point, Zhuowen's gaze suddenly turned cold. A faintly discernible pressure spread out, causing many people in the courtyard to involuntarily shiver. Zhuowen waved his right hand, and a simple and unadorned wooden tablet shot into Zhuo Xiangding's palm. Trembling as he received the wooden tablet, Zhuo Xiangding suddenly did not know what to say. However, his slightly red eyes already showed that his heart was not calm. His lips trembled violently, and Zhuo Xiangding still said in disbelief, Zhuowen, are you really planning to hand this Heavenly Dipper Earth Fiend formation to me? Looking at the unusually excited old man in front of him, Zhuowen smiled gently and said, The Tianjing Disha was originally refined by me to be used to protect the clan. Now that I hand it over to you, grandfather, as the clan head, it is naturally the most suitable. After getting Zhuowen's affirmation, Zhuo Xiangding looked excited. Under the envious gaze of Guyu Tian and others, he trembled and put the wooden tablet into his arms. This was the central control of the Tianjing and Disha. He could not lose it. Since I've left the heavenly spirits and earthly fiends to you, grandfather, it's time for me to leave. Let us part ways here. With the heavenly spirits and earthly fiends, Zhuowen was completely relieved. He smiled and left the Zhuo family with Master Kuraki. Looking at the two figures gradually leaving, Guyu Tian's expression was rather complicated. He thought that he had already overestimated the young man in front of him. Only now did he realize that not only did he underestimate the latter, more accurately, he could not see through Zhuowen at all. This person is the hidden dragon deep in the sea. Once he goes out to sea, he will be able to soar into the clouds and soar between heaven and earth. He is not someone that Rot-Tan Armor City can restrain. With a bitter laugh, Guyu Tian finally sighed helplessly. The autumn wind was bleak, blowing the fallen leaves on the ground. The rustling sound of the wind constantly reverberated in one's ears, bringing with it a slight chill. A seemingly simple and unadorned carriage was moving quickly on the main road, filled with withered leaves. Old man Karaki, you said that the reward of the Arcana ceremony is a fourth-grade origin formation. May I know the name of the fourth-grade origin formation, and what is its function? In the carriage, Zhuowen asked curiously. Ever since he saw the terrifying power of the fourth-grade origin formation Golden Armored General Formation, displayed by Lu Yuanhua, Zhuowen had a new understanding of fourth-grade origin formations. Naturally, he had a strong desire for the extremely powerful fourth-grade origin formation. This was also the reason why Zhuowen agreed to participate in the Arcana ceremony without hesitation. Master Karaki glanced at Zhuowen and shook his head slightly. I only heard about it. After all, the fourth-grade origin formation is the final reward. The Arcana Guild will not reveal it too early. However, I know that the fourth-grade origin formation should be an extremely powerful offensive formation. If you can get it, it will be very helpful for you in the Origin Chi Tower battle in 2 years. Nodding slightly, Zhuowen's eyes were full of anticipation. It had been half a month since they left Rot-Tan Armor City. In this half a month, Zhuowen and Master Karaki rushed to Broken Rock City almost non-stop. Although Broken Rock City was the nearest super city to Rot-Tan Armor City, it was still hundreds of thousands of miles away. Even if the two hired the most skilled drivers in Rot-Tan Armor City and used the fastest Siam-maned horses, it would still take a month to reach. Using this period of time, Zhuowen also learned a lot about the basic situation of Broken Rock City from Master Karaki, as well as the distribution of forces. As one of the top-ranked super cities in Muqing County, the distribution of power within Broken Rock City was tangled and complicated. Among them, the one with the greatest power wasn't the City Lord's mansion, but the Arcane Guild branch located in Broken Rock City. The status of an arcanist was originally much nobler than that of a warrior. In addition, the president of the Arcana Guild in Broken Rock City was a genuine fourth-grade arcanist. His strength was much stronger than the city governor of Broken Rock City, Ouyang Yuntu. In addition to the status of an arcanist, the city governor's office in Broken Rock City was almost suppressed by the Arcana Guild. However, Ouyang Yuntu was not the slightest bit dissatisfied with this situation. Instead, he tried his best to favor the Arcana Guild. After all, everyone knew that the Arcana Guild's influence was spread across the entire continent. It was better to provoke the Arcana Guild than to provoke the Arcana Guild. Otherwise, the Arcana Guild could casually create a powerful Yuan formation that could directly wipe out your hometown. Other than the two giants of Broken Rock City, the city governor's office and the Arcana Guild, there were the four great clans of Zhao, Huang, Zhou and Wu. These four great clans all had experts of the half-step Ultimate Emperor realm. Therefore, they could firmly become the four most powerful forces in Broken Rock City, after the city governor's office and the Arcana Guild. Below the four great clans, there were many small forces. However, even though these forces were relatively small, their combined strength still surpassed the city governor's office of Rot-Tan Armor City. From this point, one could see the enormous gap between a low-grade city and a super city. Although Broken Rock City cannot be compared to the province capital, the number of experts in it is still quite large. Kid, when you reach there, you should exercise some restraint and not be too careless. Inside the carriage, Grandmaster Tsangmu solemnly warned. Zhuowen's performance in the battle for the ancient cave dwelling was too dazzling. His strength had also increased tremendously in an instant. Grandmaster Tsangmu was afraid that Zhuowen was too young and impetuous, and had become arrogant and complacent. I naturally know that. I also understand the principle that a powerful dragon cannot suppress a snake in its old haunts. Zhuowen gently smiled. He could also feel a trace of concern in Grandmaster Tsangmu's tone, and his heart was slightly warmed. Hualulu. Just as Zhuowen and Grandmaster Tsangmu were happily chatting, the galloping carriage suddenly stopped. The huge inertia did not affect the two in the slightest. Instead, they were still firmly seated in their seats. What's going on? Why did the carriage suddenly stop? Grandmaster Tsang-mu frowned slightly and said with some displeasure in his voice. The curtain of the carriage slowly opened, only to see the old coachman trembling all over. He said in a trembling voice, "Sirs, there are dozens of strong men with large swords standing in front of us. We seem to have encountered bandits." Bandits? Frowning slightly, Zhuowen indeed saw dozens of strong men with swords in their hands, standing dozens of steps in front of the carriage through the gap of the curtain. However, these dozens of strong men did not look in Zhuowen's direction. Following the line of sight of these strong men, Zhuowen clearly saw that the end of the road was actually a number of carriages. Behind those carriages were piles of goods. Obviously, this was a rather large convoy. At this moment, dozens of strong men with large swords on their backs stared at the people in front of them with ridicule in their eyes. There were more than 50 people in this convoy. The number was slightly more than that of the black-robed man. However, most of them were ordinary people who didn't have any weapons in their hands. There were only a dozen or so warriors who had weapons and were fully clad in armor. Obviously, these warriors should be the convoy's guards. However, what made Zhuowen somewhat surprised was that the leader of these guards was actually a woman in a fiery red dress. The lady was around 20 years old. She had healthy wheat-like skin. Although her appearance could not be considered beautiful, it revealed a trace of heroic spirit, adding a temperament to her. However, this lady's figure was quite hot. She was curvaceous in front and behind. Under the outline of the fiery red clothes, she actually emitted an extremely alluring aura. In addition to this woman, another person in the convoy attracted Zhuowen's attention. That was the girl in a green dress who was protected in the center by many guards. The girl was about 13 years old. Her skin was white with a hint of rosy. Her watery eyes had a trace of mist, which made her look very pitiful. This delicate and pretty girl gave Zhuowen the feeling of a little sister next door. He always wanted to go up and protect her. Boy, there are quite a few young and beautiful women in this convoy. Seeing that you are also a young and vigorous man, do you want to be a hero and save the beauty? Perhaps there is a woman inside who would like to devote herself to him? Black's unique lewd laughter immediately rang out in his mind, causing Zhuowen to involuntarily roll his eyes. Hee, I am too lazy to meddle in other people's business. As for saving the beauty, I think you are thinking too much. The leader of the guards is quite strong. She should be at least a half-step human king. And those strong men in black are not very strong. I am afraid that the woman can deal with them. Zhuowen shrugged and replied secretly in his heart. The arrival of Zhuowen and Master Kuraki attracted the attention of the two teams that were confronting each other. When the people in the convoy saw that someone had come, their faces immediately lit up with joy. However, when they saw that it was only an old man with white hair and beard, and a young man who looked weak, the joy on their faces immediately froze. Old man, little brat, you'd better not meddle in other people's business. Otherwise, we will not show mercy to you. The middle-aged man in black, who was the leader of the strong men in black, suddenly raised his big knife and shouted fiercely at Zhuowen and Master Kuraki. The two of them looked at each other. Master Kuraki was expressionless while Zhuowen shrugged. Then, the two of them actually walked to the side in front of everyone. They really did not intend to meddle in other people's business. Although she knew that the two people in front of her would not be of any help even if they joined, the red-clothed woman was still quite displeased when she saw the two people in front of her withdraw so quickly, as if this matter did not concern them. Her eyes that were filled with a heroic spirit were filled with contempt and disdain. Chapter 248. Explosive Blood Pill. Hand over all the goods and women in the carriage, and we will consider not attacking you. We will let you pass safely. A one-eyed middle-aged man among the black-clothed brawny men squinted his eyes and looked at the woman in red with fear. He could feel that the woman in red was very powerful. With his cultivation at the peak of the corporeal yang stage, it would be difficult for him to take her down. Therefore, he made such a request that he thought was reasonable. The woman in red frowned slightly and sneered. You think too highly of yourself. With your cultivation at the peak of the corporeal yang stage, you want to steal from me? Let me see if you have the ability to do so. As soon as the woman in red finished speaking, an extremely powerful energy fluctuation burst out from her body. Half-step human king realm? Feeling the energy fluctuation from the woman in red, the expressions of the group of black-clothed brawny men changed. The one-eyed middle-aged man's face also changed slightly. Although he felt that the woman in red was difficult to deal with, he thought that her cultivation was at most on par with his. He did not expect her to be at the half-step human king realm. Boss, what should we do? One of the brawny men turned to look at the one-eyed man and frowned slightly. Humph. Only the woman in front of us is strong. The other warriors are nothing to worry about. You guys quickly get rid of the others. Remember to kill the men, and leave the women alive. As for the woman, I will deal with her. A trace of ruthlessness flashed in the one-eyed man's eyes. He stared at the woman in red and rushed toward her. Attack! Get rid of all these people. The moment the one-eyed man rushed out, he shouted with Yuan power. His voice echoed in everyone's ears. Swoosh! 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 Seeing the one-eyed man attack, the dozens of brawny men behind him instantly turned into shadows and rushed toward the carriage. The woman in red's face changed. She did not expect the brawny man in black to be so fearless, even after she revealed her cultivation at the half-step human king realm. She could not understand why the one-eyed man was so confident when he was only at the peak of the corporeal yang stage. Everyone be careful. Come with me to face the enemy. Remember to protect the people behind you. The tight-dressed lady cried out in a lovely voice. Her pretty eyes rotated as she looked at the pure young lady with watery eyes behind her with some worry. After which, she directly led the guards to meet the black-clothed strong man. Boom! The battle was on the verge of breaking out. In an instant, dozens of black-clothed brawny men came into contact with the convoy of martial artists. In an instant, Yuan power spilled out in all directions like cherry blossoms. The powerful energy shockwaves swept out in all directions like a hurricane. On the other side of the road, Zhuowen and Master Kuraki were leaning against a tree trunk with nothing to do. They looked at the fierce battle in front of them, with a hint of interest in their eyes. Brat, don't you plan to help? With your strength, you can easily subdue those robbers. Grandmaster Kuraki glanced at the lazy young man beside him and rolled his eyes. I'm too lazy to meddle in other people's business. Half a month of continuous travel has been rather boring. Now that I can see such a battle scene, it's not bad. Once they're done, we can continue on our way. Zhuowen crossed his arms in front of his chest and said indifferently, Why don't I see any of the hot-bloodedness of a young man in you? Generally speaking, a kid at your age should prefer to be a chivalrous person. Instead, you find it troublesome. Master Kuraki shook his head and looked at the young man beside him with a speechless expression as he said lightly. Shaking his head slightly, Zhuowen did not reply. Instead, he looked at the battle in front of him with interest. Bang! The one-eyed man gripped his broadsword tightly with both hands and instantly arrived in front of the tight-dressed lady. He pressed down with both hands and the broadsword slashed down like a thunderbolt. The powerful force even produced a rather ear-piercing sound of air exploding. The tight-dressed lady snorted coldly. She twisted her small waist, and her slender jade-like hands tightened. The red belt on her waist suddenly turned into a fiery red shadow. It was actually a red whip that was about 10 feet long. The red whip was like a fiery red giant python, as it swept towards the one-eyed man. Boom! A violent explosion sounded. The broadsword and the red whip instantly came into contact with each other. Dazzling sparks suddenly spilled out in all directions. With a clang, the two people suddenly separated. Thump! Thump! The one-eyed man took 5 steps back. He only stopped when his broadsword stopped abruptly. On the other hand, the tight-dressed lady only took 3 steps back. From this point, it could be seen that the gap between the two was quite obvious. I have said that you are no match for me. If you don't retreat, I will start a massacre today. The tight-dressed lady's pretty face was full of killing intent as she said crisply, You are indeed a warrior of the half-step human king realm. It seems that it is really difficult to deal with you without using that thing. The one-eyed man did not show any fear on his face. Instead, his eyes revealed a trace of excitement. After saying that, the one-eyed man took out a pill from his bosom and said indifferently, "If I had not met you, I am afraid that I would not have had to use this pill. However, as long as I can take you down, even if I have to use this violent blood pill, it will be worth it." Violent blood pill? You actually have this kind of pill? The tight-dressed lady's pretty face suddenly changed when she saw the blood-red pill in the one-eyed man's hand. She could not help but exclaim. The violent blood pill was a kind of pill that could stimulate a warrior's potential for a short period of time in exchange for great power. Warriors who took this pill would often have their strength greatly increased. They would be able to kill warriors who were stronger than them. However, the side effects of this pill were particularly great. After taking the violent blood pill, the warrior would lose half of his blood essence. At that time, it would be as if he was seriously injured. He would not be able to move freely at all. Moreover, his strength would also decrease. It could be said that this pill was something that harmed others without benefiting oneself. Otherwise, why do you think that with my cultivation at the peak of the corporeal yang stage, I am not afraid of you, a warrior of the half-step human king realm? The one-eyed man sneered and swallowed the violent blood pill. Boom! A muffled explosion suddenly erupted from within the one-eyed man's body. It was as if countless small bombs had exploded within his body. Immediately, countless bloody lines crisscrossed on his body, as if countless blood-colored earthworms had been placed within them. Ah! The one-eyed man screamed in pain. At this moment, his face was covered in cold sweat. However, an extremely powerful aura burst out from his body, instantly filling the entire open space. The violent blood pill is quite amazing. It can actually directly raise a warrior of the peak of the corporeal yang stage to the initial human king realm. The extent of this increase is quite amazing. Zhuowen's eyes flickered. He stared at the one-eyed man, whose strength had skyrocketed, with some surprise. Hehe. The side effects of the violent blood pill are great. This one-eyed man is quite bold to use this pill so decisively. However, once the effect of this pill is over, I'm afraid that his strength will be greatly reduced. It will not be easy for him to recover, Master Kuraki said casually with a faint smile. You force me to use the violent blood pill. You will have to pay the corresponding price. The one-eyed man's eyes were red. He sneered and instantly disappeared from where he was standing. So fast, the tight-dressed lady's pretty face changed greatly. She waved her jade-like hand, and a fiery red whip swept towards the one-eyed man from a tricky angle, like a fire python. Haha! After taking the violent blood pill, my strength is no less than that of an initial human king realm warrior. You want to stop me with your cultivation of the half-step human king realm? The one-eyed man laughed wildly. He did not dodge the tight-dressed lady's red whip at all. He grabbed the red whip with his right hand, and directly caught it in his hand. It's not your turn to be arrogant now. The one-eyed man sneered, and pulled the whip with his right hand. The tight-dressed lady felt an extremely powerful force coming from the red whip in her hand. Then, her body involuntarily fell towards the one-eyed man. Damn it! The tight-dressed lady cursed. Yuan power burst out from her body, and she wanted to retrieve the red whip. At this moment, she suddenly realized that the force in the red whip had dissipated. She could not help but stagger. In the blink of an eye, a shadow suddenly appeared in front of the tight-dressed lady. Then, the one-eyed man's ferocious face appeared in the lady's eyes. Boom! The one-eyed man had no intention of showing any mercy. The veins on his right fist bulged, and a powerful Yuan power burst out. Then, he punched the lady's flat lower abdomen violently. Bang! The tight-dressed lady was like a falling leaf. She flew backwards and landed heavily on the ground. After flying for more than 10 meters, the lady violently collided with a tree trunk. She spat out a mouthful of blood, and her expression became extremely dispirited. Seeing that the strongest woman in the convoy was actually defeated by the one-eyed man, the morale of the convoy guards who were fighting against the black-clothed strong men was greatly reduced. In an instant, the black-clothed strong men exterminated almost all of them. Sister Tongyu, when the tight-dressed lady fell to the ground, The innocent young lady, who was surrounded by everyone in the convoy, could not help but cry out. Her watery eyes were filled with a thick mist, causing people to feel pity for her. Wenqian, quickly leave. This place is not safe. The tight-dressed lady struggled to stand up. Her defeated face could not help but shout at the innocent young lady. Leave. Do you think that you people can leave today? The one-eyed man followed the voice, and saw the young lady with tears on her face. A glint flashed across his ferocious eyes. With a stomp of his foot, he transformed into an illusory figure, and arrived above the pure young lady. His right hand turned into a claw and suddenly reached out. He grabbed the young lady's skinny shoulder, and lifted her up. At this moment, the young lady was clearly frightened, and did not know what to do. Faced with the one-eyed man's claw, she was powerless to resist. She could only cry, and her face was filled with panic. Let her go. Do you know who we are? We are from the Zhao family, one of the 4 great families in Broken Rock City. The young lady in your hand is the Zhao family's long-lost daughter. The tight-dressed lady's face suddenly became anxious as she shouted. Chapter 249. Revealing his strength from Zhuo Xiangding's words, Zhuowen knew that his aunt's disappearance was most likely caused by the Zhao family. Moreover, the Zhao family had forced his aunt to marry into the Zhao family. He could feel the hatred and disgust towards the Zhao family in Zhuo Xiangding's words. It was precisely because of this situation that Zhuowen naturally didn't have a good impression of the Zhao family that he had never seen before. At this moment, when he saw that the carriage was actually the Zhao family's troops, Zhuowen naturally had no reason to step forward to help. Zhao family? Hehe. Do you think I don't know that you're from the Zhao family? You're Zhao Tongyu, the daughter of the Zhao family's guard captain Zhao Yan. The girl in my hand is called Zhao Wenqian, the illegitimate daughter of your Zhao family's patriarch. The one-eyed man laughed coldly, and said with disdain, Your goal isn't our goods but Wenqian? Could it be that you were sent by Zhao Yaoding? Zhao Tongyu coughed a few times, her expression changing greatly as she shouted. Your reaction is quite fast. Since you're about to die, there's no harm in telling you. We were indeed sent by the eldest young master. In the eldest young master's opinion, this kind of vile spawn born outside has no qualifications to enter the Zhao family. Entering the Zhao family will only be an insult to the Zhao family's door. The one-eyed man's gaze revealed an ominous glint. His right hand suddenly grabbed the girl in his hand, causing the girl to cry out in pain. The tears in her eyes poured down in torrents. Stop. You're only Zhao Yaoding's dog. What qualifications do you have to touch Wenqian? Zhao Tongyu's charming face darkened as she shouted. You're really noisy. You're already a fish on the chopping board, yet you're still so arrogant. Looks like I hit you too lightly. The one-eyed man sneered. His figure suddenly appeared in front of Zhao Tongyu. He raised his right foot high and fiercely stomped on the latter's abdomen. Poochie! Zhao Tongyu spat out another mouthful of blood. Her charming face was filled with pain. Stop! Don't hurt big sister Tongyu. The young girl was extremely helpless at this moment. The 2 streaks of tears on her cheeks were a ghastly sight. Looking at the tear-stained girl in his hand, an obscure look flashed across the one-eyed man's eyes. His thick hand pinched the girl's chin as he said, If you listen to me obediently, I won't hurt your big sister Tongyu. How about it? The young girl choked with sobs, her eyes slightly red. She could see a terrifying light flash in the one-eyed man's eyes. The man's gaze caused the young girl's delicate body to tremble uncontrollably. Just as the one-eyed man was about to take another step, a clear and indifferent voice suddenly sounded. Since you've finished your business, you can make way. We've been waiting for half an hour. The one-eyed man narrowed his eyes and turned his head to look. He saw a handsome young man not far away, yawning with an impatient look on his face. Give way. You two heard our conversation just now. Do you think you can still leave? The one-eyed man grinned maliciously. His tone was full of malicious intent. In his view, Zhuowen and Master Kuraki beside him, one was only a 16-year-old young man, while the other was an old man with 1 foot in the grave. The 2 of them looked like ordinary people without the strength to truss a chicken. This was also the reason why the one-eyed man didn't make a move on them in the beginning. Originally, if the conversation between him and Zhao Tongyu hadn't been heard by Zhuowen and Master Karaki, perhaps the one-eyed man really wouldn't have cared about these two ordinary people in his eyes. However, since he had already exposed that he was sent by Zhao Yaoding, he had no choice but to silence these people who knew about it. "Oh, you mean you don't plan to let us go?" Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and said in a cold voice. In order to ensure that this matter won't be exposed, I naturally have to keep your mouth shut forever. The best way to keep your mouth shut is to die. I can only say that you're too unlucky today. You heard something you shouldn't have heard, and saw someone you shouldn't have seen." The killing intent in the one-eyed man's eyes gradually rose, and his voice was cold. "That makes sense. Now I can give you a chance. If you immediately kneel down and kowtow to me 100 times, I can forgive you for speaking rudely to me just now. Remember, this is the only chance I can give you to live." Nodding slightly, Zhuowen said with a serious expression. Once these words were spoken, the scene instantly became extremely quiet. Other than Grandmaster Karaki's calm expression, everyone else looked at Zhuowen, who was boasting shamelessly, as if they were looking at an idiot. Who did he think he was? A young man actually dared to say such words. Didn't he know that the one-eyed man in front of him had reached the level of the human king after taking the blood-burst pill? This kind of strength could be considered an expert even in Broken Rock City. Even Zhao Tongyu, who was dressed in red, stared blankly at the young man who was not far away, who still had a calm expression. She muttered in a low voice, "Is there something wrong with this guy's head? He actually dares to say such provocative words. Could it be that he knows that the one-eyed man won't let him go, so he gave up on himself?" Even the one-eyed man was stunned when he heard Zhuowen's reckless words. He didn't expect that the seemingly weak young man in front of him would be so arrogant, and even dare to speak such nonsense. What an arrogant kid. You're about to die, yet you still dare to say such words. Jolie, cripple this kid. Be careful not to kill him. In a while, I will let him have a good taste of pain. I haven't met such an arrogant and conceited brat for a long time. The one-eyed man pointed at a sturdy young man beside him and said to Zhuowen, "Boss, don't worry. I will definitely let this kid enjoy the taste of pain. It's rare to have such an interesting toy. Naturally, I won't be so impatient to play with him to death." The sturdy young man named Jolie revealed a sinister smile on his face. His flat triangular eyes stared straight at Zhuowen. Swoosh! With a fierce stomp of his foot, Jolie shot towards Zhuowen like an arrow that had left the bow. A palm that contained blazing golden yuan power instantly arrived above Zhuowen and ruthlessly pressed down on the top of Zhuowen's head. The sinister smile on Jolie's face grew even more vigorous. Clang! Zhuowen gently extended a hand. Without using any yuan power, he directly pinched Jolie's palm. Subsequently, Zhuowen twisted his wrist. A clear cracking sound abruptly rang out, and the sinister smile on Jolie's face instantly froze. Soon after, he saw that his arm had actually become twisted, and a heart-wrenching pain assaulted his heart. A heart-wrenching scream was instantly emitted from Jolie's mouth. It appeared somewhat mournful and shocking in the open space. Noisy, Zhuowen's body didn't move at all. He indifferently glanced at Jolie, whose face was twisted in pain. He withdrew his right hand and suddenly punched out. It directly hit Jolie's chest. The huge force caused Jolie's sternum to cave in, and then he was directly sent flying. Bang. The sound of a heavy object falling to the ground immediately attracted everyone's attention. When the crowd saw that Jolie's sternum had caved in, and his eyes were slightly protruding, they couldn't help but gasp and brighten up. The one-eyed man's pupils violently shrank as he looked at Jolie's corpse not far away in horror. Jolie was considered the strongest among his subordinates. His strength had already reached corporeal yang stage 9, and his strength was only slightly weaker than his usual strength. However, the ordinary-looking young man in front of him had casually killed an expert like Jolie. The one-eyed man felt that his brain couldn't wrap itself around this. Zhao Tongyu, who originally looked down on Zhuowen and Master Karaki, opened her cherry lips slightly. She looked at Jolie's miserable corpse on the ground in disbelief, as well as the indifferent young man not far away. She finally understood why the young man in front of her was so calm and indifferent from the beginning to the end. It turned out that he was so strong. Perhaps this person can help us get rid of the one-eyed man. Zhao Tongyu's beautiful eyes suddenly burst with a bright light. The original gloominess in her eyes was swept away and replaced with hope. However, a trace of worry appeared on her face. After all, the one-eyed man's strength has skyrocketed under the effect of the berserk blood pill. He's already comparable to the king realm. His strength isn't comparable to Zhou Li's. I don't know if this young man is his match. Boy, it seems that you're quite capable to be able to kill Zhou Li in one move. After coming back to his senses, the one-eyed man's face was full of seriousness. He looked at the young man in front of him with fear. He suddenly felt that he couldn't see through the young man in front of him. Didn't you just say that you don't want to meddle in other people's business? I can make way for you now. You can leave first. Speaking up to here, the one-eyed man suddenly made way. He couldn't see through Zhuowen. Moreover, he had already completed his mission. It wasn't worthwhile to offend the young man in front of him, who was quite strong. Just a moment ago, the one-eyed man had threatened to kill Zhou Li. Now that he saw that Zhou Li wasn't weak, he readily agreed to make way. This made Zhuowen sneer in his heart. I gave you a chance just now, but you didn't take it. It's too late for you to let me go now. Zhuowen's gaze became even colder as he walked towards the one-eyed man step by step. The yuan power within his body was released without reservation. In an instant, the entire space was enveloped by a powerful pressure. It was the pressure that Zhuowen had released. Under this pressure, some of the dust on the ground began to evaporate like air currents as they slowly rose into the air. Earth King Realm martial artist? How is this possible? Feeling the air around him suddenly solidifying, the one-eyed man's pupils suddenly shrank. He suddenly cried out loudly. He looked at the young man who was slowly walking towards him in disbelief. Traces of cold sweat slowly flowed down his face. He finally understood why the young man's words were so arrogant. It was because he had the qualifications to be arrogant. The young man in front of him was only 16 years old, but he had already reached the Earth King realm, which even the older generation might not necessarily reach. With such talent and strength, it was likely that only those superpowers could nurture such a young expert. Chapter 250. Zhao Yaoding. He's actually an Earth King stage cultivator. Zhao Tongyu's cherry lips trembled as her beautiful eyes stared at the youth not far away. She involuntarily exclaimed. Zhao Tongyu bit her lower lip with her pearly white teeth, as she looked at the young man nearby with a complicated expression. Even in her Zhao family, an Earth King stage cultivator was in existence with a high status. They were existences that she could only look up to. However, the young man in front of her was even younger than her. Yet he had already reached such a terrifying realm. This caused her to feel somewhat uncomfortable. Little brother, let's talk nicely. I'm Zhao Hui, a member of the Zhao family, one of the 4 great families of Broken Rock City. I believe you've heard of our Zhao family's name. For the sake of our Zhao family, I hope that little brother will be magnanimous and forgive me. The one-eyed dragon man's legs suddenly trembled as cold sweat trickled down his face. He couldn't help but retreat. I've said that you only have one chance. Since you didn't grasp it then. Raising his head slightly, a cold light flashed across Zhuowen's eyes. He took a step forward, and his entire body turned into countless afterimages. In an instant, he arrived behind the one-eyed man. His right fist suddenly punched out. Accompanied by the sound of countless explosions, it suddenly smashed into the man's back. Pop! Countless clouds of blood immediately dispersed from the one-eyed man's body. The man's eyes bulged as a trace of regret flashed across his eyes. Soon after, he fell straight to the ground as fresh blood continuously flowed out. Then you won't have another chance. With a flash of lightning, Zhuowen once again appeared at his previous position. He indifferently stared at the one-eyed man, who had already fallen to the ground with a cold expression. After cultivating the lightning snake wings of the 6 wings of wind and lightning, Zhuowen's every step was accompanied by a trace of lightning. His speed was comparable to a heavenly king stage cultivator. If he used his full strength, his speed was practically unrivaled under the Ultimate Emperor stage. This was also why the one-eyed man couldn't even catch sight of Zhuowen's figure, and was directly killed. The dozens of black-clothed men in the surroundings couldn't help but be stunned. When they saw the one-eyed man instantly killed, they all panicked and turned around to flee in all directions. You want to leave? Zhuowen's eyes hardened slightly as he watched the dozens of black-clothed strong men flee in all directions. He stomped his foot and countless lightning flashed. A deafening roar immediately exploded on the ground. Zhuowen left behind countless afterimages on the spot. Bang! 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 In the blink of an eye, countless miserable cries immediately rose and fell. Subsequently, the dozens of black-clothed strong men, who wanted to flee, only managed to run for around 10 steps before stopping. Subsequently, their bodies strangely emitted an endless amount of blood fog, as they directly fell to the ground, completely dead. So fast! Zhao Tongyu bitterly smiled as she watched several dozen strong men in black being killed by Zhuowen in the blink of an eye. Now that Zhuowen had made his move, she had experienced just how strong an Earth King stage practitioner was. Moreover, she could even feel that Zhuowen's strength was much stronger than those Earth King stage elders of the Zhao clan. She didn't know if this was just her imagination. After dealing with the black-clothed strong men, Zhuowen calmly walked towards Grandmaster Tsangmu and said with a faint smile, "Old man Tsangmu, let's go." Grandmaster Tsangmu glanced at Zhuowen with some surprise. Zhuowen's speed just now had truly stunned him. If his guess was correct, the speed that Zhuowen had displayed just now was not inferior to an ordinary Heavenly King stage expert. However, he only thought that Zhuowen had obtained quite a few opportunities in the ancient cave dwelling. Therefore, he did not take it to heart. Nodding slightly, the two of them planned to return to the carriage and continue their journey. Sister Tongyu, are you all right? After Zhuowen made his move, Zhao Wenxian was released by the one-eyed man. At this moment, there were still 2 streaks of tears on her face. She came to Zhao Tongyu's side and helped her up as she asked in a rather worried manner, "I'm fine." Zhao Tongyu forced a smile. Looking at the figure of the youth who was about to leave, she gritted her teeth and shouted, "Both of you wait." Beside her, Zhao Wenxian's beautiful eyes also rotated. Her large watery eyes stared straight at Zhuowen's figure. The scene of the youth leisurely taking care of the one-eyed man, and the dozens of black-clothed strong men, still remained in her mind for a long time. Originally, Zhao Tongyu's strength was already very strong in her eyes. She did not expect that the youth in front of her, who was only a few years older than her, was actually much stronger than Zhao Tongyu. When she recalled the figure of the youth killing the enemies just now, a trace of worship unknowingly slowly rose in her eyes. Pausing his footsteps, Zhuowen turned around and looked at Zhao Tongyu, Zhao Wenxian, and the group of people who were still alive behind the 2 women. "Are the 2 of you heading to Broken Rock City? Why don't we head there together?" Zhao Tongyu hesitated for a moment before she finally opened her mouth. However, there was a trace of apprehension on her beautiful face. She was very clear that Zhao Wenxian was the illegitimate daughter of the current Zhao family's patriarch. She had been wandering outside for many years and was only recently found. However, the patriarch of the Zhao family, Zhao Yaoding, regarded this sister of his as a disgrace and did not want her to return to the family. Therefore, Zhao Yaoding would definitely intercept and kill her halfway. The one-eyed man and his group were the assassins sent by Zhao Yaoding. If it was not for Zhuowen's intervention today, Zhao Tongyu was very clear that they would definitely have died here today. She knew that Zhao Yaoding would definitely not give up. If they wanted to safely head to Broken Rock City, they would need an expert to hold the fort. And right now, the best candidate was none other than the person in front of them, Zhuowen. Before I agree, let me ask you a question first. Since you are from the Zhao family, one of the 4 great families of Broken Rock City, have you heard of a girl named Zhuo Meijin? Looking straight at the 2 women in front of him, Zhuowen's gaze slightly focused as he casually asked, "Zhuo Meijin? I haven't heard of her. Our Zhao family doesn't seem to have such a person." When Zhao Tongyu heard this, A trace of doubt immediately appeared on her charming face as she shook her head. Is that so? A trace of disappointment flashed through Zhuowen's eyes. Zhuo Meijin? I seem to have heard this name from my mother. Just when Zhuowen thought that he would not be able to get the slightest clue, a timid voice suddenly sounded out. Oh, you've heard of this name? Then do you know her whereabouts? Slightly turning his head, Zhuowen stared straight at Zhao Wenqian, who was beside Zhao Tongyu, as he asked with bright eyes. Feeling Zhuowen's fervent gaze, Zhao Wenqian's charming face flushed red. Her watery eyes involuntarily glanced away, not daring to look directly at Zhuowen. Her hands were somewhat nervously clasped together as she softly said, I only inadvertently heard this name from my mother's mouth. It seems that this Zhuo Meijin used to have some relationship with my father and mother. As for the specific details, I'm not too clear. Your father and mother? Then where are they now? Zhuo Meijin is my relative. This trip to Broken Rock City is for this reason. I hope this lady can help me ask around. Zhuowen's gaze was sincere as he said. Hearing this, Zhao Wenqian's eyes darkened as she lightly sighed and said, My mother passed away many years ago, and my father is the current head of the Zhao family. If you want to know the whereabouts of Zhuo Meijin, I'm afraid you'll have to ask my father. The head of the Zhao family? Looking at the gloomy Zhao Wenqian, Zhuowen's face revealed a thoughtful expression. It seemed that the whereabouts of his aunt would not be easy to find. He would have to find the head of the Zhao family. After pondering for a while, Zhuowen nodded and said, Since it's on the way, let's go to Broken Rock City together. However, I do have a request. When we reach Broken Rock City, I want to see the head of the Zhao family. There are some things that I need to ask him. Of course. After all, Wenqian is the only child of the current head of the Zhao family. The head of the Zhao family dotes on her very much. This request can naturally be fulfilled. Zhao Tongyu readily agreed. In the hall of the Zhao family, a man of about 30 years old with an aquiline nose looked gloomily at a servant who was kneeling before him. He said coldly, Are you saying that the assassination of that bastard Zhao Wenqian failed? Zhao Hui has a violent blood pill on him. After consuming the violent blood pill, Zhao Hui's strength is comparable to an initial stage human king. With such strength, he still can't get rid of Zhao Wenqian and her group? The strongest of the guards who escorted Zhao Wenqian is Zhao Tongyu. Her strength is only at the half-step human king realm. She shouldn't be a match for Zhao Hui, whose strength has greatly increased. What is going on? The aquiline-nosed man was the young master of the Zhao family, Zhao Yaoding. He was ruthless and extremely shrewd. The disappearance of Zhuowen's aunt Zhuo Meijin was closely related to him. In the hall, the servant in black who was kneeling on the ground trembled. He said with a trembling voice, It was done by a young man. At that time, I saw the young man kill Zhao Hui in an instant from afar. He even killed the rest of Zhao Hui's subordinates in the blink of an eye. His methods were extremely ruthless. I conclude that the young man's strength is at least at the complete human king realm, or even the earth king realm. A young man? Where did that young man come from? Since his cultivation is above the human king realm at such a young age, he is definitely not a nobody. Zhao Yaoding's eyes flickered and his face became even gloomier. He did not expect that someone would come out of nowhere and ruin his plan. That young man is a stranger. He should not be from our Broken Rock City, the servant in black said carefully. When Zhao Yaoding heard this, he snorted coldly. No wonder he dares to ruin our Zhao family's business. It turns out that he is not from our Broken Rock City. Pass down the order. Ask the captain of the Purple Court Guards, Zhao Wuji, to come and find me. The servant in black was shocked when he heard this. The Purple Court Guards were a powerful group of guards in the Zhao family. Their captain, Zhao Wuji, was a famous expert in the Zhao family. His strength was at the complete Earth King realm, and his status in the Zhao family was quite high. The servant in black knew that Zhao Yaoding was probably going to send this group to deal with Zhao Wenqian and the others. He responded and left the room. Uncle, your patriarch position will definitely be mine. Do you think that you can restrain me just because you found your bastard daughter, Zhao Wenqian? You have underestimated me. Today I will kill your bastard daughter first. In the future, I will get rid of you and take complete control of the Zhao family. From then on, no one will be able to stop me. Chapter 251. Chapter 251 Zietingway Creek. The door was pushed open, and a middle-aged man wearing purple armor, with a cold expression, walked into the hall with steady steps. He knelt down on one knee and said respectfully, "Subordinate Zhao Wuji greets Master. May I know why Master called for the subordinate?" Limitless. Zhao Hui's assassination failed. Zhao Yaoting's eyes flickered as he said indifferently, "Zhao Hui actually failed. I remember that Master once bestowed him with a violent blood pill. With the violent blood pill's heaven-defying medicinal effects, he still couldn't complete the mission?" Zhao Wuji frowned slightly as he asked in surprise. "Zhao Wenqian was saved. I heard that he is a young man. It is said that his strength is above the perfection of the human king realm. You should know why I asked you to come here. Zhao Wenqian cannot be left alive. Go kill them all and bring Zhao Wenqian's head to me," Zhao Yaoting said calmly. "Perfection of the human king realm? Don't worry, Master. This subordinate will definitely complete the mission. It is just a consummation sovereign personage brat," Zhao Wuji said proudly as he raised his head. "Yes, with you taking action, this young master is naturally at ease. Remember, do not leave anyone alive. This young master wants to make sure that the dead cannot testify. Only in this way, even if my uncle suspects me, he can't do anything to me." Zhao Yaoting smiled coldly. "Understood. We, the Purple Court Guards, won't make any mistakes. Don't worry, Master." Deep in the night, the sky was dotted with stars. In the depths of the quiet forest, a wisp of bonfire slowly rose. It was rather dazzling in the pitch-black night. There were already many figures surrounding the bonfire. The group of people were chatting and laughing, and the atmosphere was quite harmonious. Zhuowen and Grandmaster Kuraki sat quietly by the bonfire. Grandmaster Kuraki was the first to speak. "We will arrive at Broken Rock City in about 5 days. Kid, the Arcana ceremony is coming soon. Before the Arcana ceremony, you have to register as an Arcanist at the Arcana Guild and get your badge." "Yes. However, I am looking forward to the so-called Arcane ceremony. I have always stayed in Vine Armor City and have never seen the outside world. Moreover, I am also very curious about what kind of existence the Arcane Guild is." Zhuowen's lips squirmed as he said indifferently, "Big brother Zhuowen, you haven't eaten anything all day, right? This is rabbit meat that I personally roasted. Try it and see what you think." A clear and melodious voice like that of an oriole sounded. Zhao Wenqian had unknowingly arrived beside Zhuowen. She handed the rabbit meat in her slender hand to Zhuowen, as she spoke with hopeful eyes. With a faint smile, he took the rabbit meat and took a bite. He felt that the meat was fresh and tender, and the texture was crispy and smooth. It was actually very delicious. He could not help but give a thumbs up and said with a smile, "Miss Qianer's cooking is really good. This rabbit meat is actually so delicious." Hearing Zhuowen's praise, Zhao Wenqian smiled sweetly. Her clear big eyes narrowed into a line, and her cheeks turned red. Zhuowen had been following Zhao Wenqian's team for 10 days now, and he had gotten familiar with Zhao Wenqian and Zhao Tongyu after getting along with them for 10 days. At the same time, Zhuowen had also learned a lot about Zhao family's situation from them. From what the two of them said, it seemed that the Zhao family was currently in a turbulent situation. The current head of the Zhao family did not have a very high prestige in the Zhao family. Instead, the Zhao family's eldest young master, Zhao Yaoting, had more prestige and power than the head of the Zhao family. The master who sent Zhao Hui to assassinate Zhao Wenqian was Zhao Yaoting. Zhao Yaoting was the guy who went to the Zhuo family to propose marriage 10 years ago. Zhuowen knew that his aunt's disappearance might be deeply related to this person. Seeing that Zhuowen was eating with relish beside him, Master Kuraki raised his eyebrows and said with some displeasure, "Miss Qianer, why do you only have eyes for your big brother Zhuowen? Could it be that this old man is invisible?" Hearing these words, Zhao Wenqian's pretty face immediately turned red. She softly said, "Senior Kuraki, I did not do it on purpose. Let me roast another one for you." As she spoke, Zhao Wenqian flew away. However, the blush on her pretty face did not dissipate for a long time. like a ripe red apple. AI. It's good to be young and capable. This old man can't compare. Brat. This old man sees that this little girl is interested in you. Why don't you? Speaking to this point, Master Kuraki suddenly said mischievously. Rolling his eyes at the old and unscrupulous Master Kuraki, Zhuowen no longer paid attention to the dirty old man beside him. In his mind, he involuntarily recalled the deep kiss that Mu Qinxue had given him when they parted, as well as her unwilling eyes. His eyes emitted a trace of determination. I wonder how Mu Qinxue is doing in Jiaxin Academy? Slightly raising his head, Zhuowen gazed at the sky filled with stars as he thought absent-mindedly. Early in the morning, a gentle ray of light sprinkled down. After Zhuowen and the rest had finished packing, they led the group towards the direction of Broken Rock City. Dang dang dang. When the procession arrived at a dense forest, the ear-piercing sound of horse hooves was suddenly heard from the front. It was rumbling as it resounded. Stop! At the front of the group was Zhuowen and Master Kuraki. Behind them were Zhao Tongyu and Zhao Wenqian. The rest were ordinary people and surviving warriors. After receiving Zhuowen's signal, everyone stopped. This was because they had also heard the hurried sound of horse hooves in front of them. The sound came from afar, and in an instant, it came into everyone's line of sight. They saw a group of figures wearing heavy purple armor, riding on purple horses rapidly approaching. Finally, they stopped about 10 meters away from the group. Zhuowen and Master Kuraki looked at each other with a puzzled expression. However, Zhao Tongyu's expression changed drastically. She could not help but exclaim, "It's actually the Purple Palace guards of the Zhao family. That bastard Zhao Yaoting actually sent out the Purple Palace guards to kill Wenqian." At this moment, Zhao Wenqian's pretty face became extremely pale. Obviously, she did not expect that Zhao Yaoting would not change his mind and insist on killing her. She bit her cherry lips and said to Zhuowen, "Brother Zhuowen, the Purple Palace guards are the elite guards of the Zhao family. Every one of them is above the human king realm. Their captain Zhao Wuji is even a perfect Earth King realm expert. With our current strength, we can't contend with them at all. So you should leave. This matter has nothing to do with you. You don't have to die with us." Zhao Wenqian's pretty face was filled with bitterness. She clearly knew how strong the Purple Palace guards of the Zhao family were. Although Zhuowen's strength was strong enough, and was at the Earth King realm, the captain of the Purple Palace guards, Zhao Wuji, was at the perfect Earth King realm. He even had dozens of human king realm subordinates under his command. Even the young man in front of her would find it difficult to resist such a force. Letting Zhuowen and Master Kuraki leave was obviously the wisest choice for Zhao Wenqian. Don't worry. I don't care about the perfect Earth King realm. Moreover, I, Zhuowen, will never give up halfway. Since I have promised to escort you to Broken Rock City, I will naturally not go back on my word. Zhuowen turned his head and smiled at Zhao Wenqian as he said softly, looking at the young man's warm smile. Zhao Wenqian did not know why, but she felt an unprecedented sense of security in her heart. A special kind of dependence gradually rose in the depths of her heart. Zhuowen, do you know how terrifying the purple court guards are? Among them, Zhao Wuji is a rather famous expert in the Zhao family. He is extremely powerful, and his cultivation is already infinitely close to the half-step Heavenly King realm. I heard that he has even escaped from a Heavenly King realm cultivator before. In short, he is not a simple person. Moreover, he has brought along most of the experts from the Purple Court Guards. These dozens of Purple Court Guards are all above the Human King realm. I'm afraid we are really finished this time. Zhao Tongyu pursed her cherry lips tightly and said with some despair, I know. I really want to see how powerful the so-called expert you speak of is. With a faint smile, Zhuowen twisted his right hand, and a black spear that was several feet long suddenly appeared in his hand. With a step on the saddle, Zhuowen's figure steadily landed in front of the Purple Court Guards. His gaze was extremely calm. Could it be that he intends to take on the Purple Court Guards alone? Zhao Tongyu's beautiful eyes narrowed as she looked at the young man's figure walking step by step towards the Purple Court Guards in disbelief. Senior Kuraki, are you not going to stop him? Zhuowen is simply courting death. Zhao Tongyu stared at Master Kuraki beside her as her pretty face was filled with worry. Haha, don't worry. Zhuowen is not a reckless person. Moreover, his strength is far beyond your imagination. Just as he said, the purple court guards are nothing in his eyes. Master Kuraki smiled faintly and said slowly, Zhuowen was a ruthless person who had set the record of killing 1,000 human king realm cultivators by himself. How could the purple court guards in front of him be compared to the thousands of cultivators in the ancient cave mansion? Could it be that they are all crazy? Or does Zhuowen really have the strength to take on the purple court guards alone? Zhao Tongyu was also somewhat helpless towards Master Kuraki's attitude. She stared at Zhuowen's back as she bit her lower lip. On the purple horse, Zhao Wuji looked at Zhuowen, who was holding a long spear, and walking towards them step by step. His face could not help but reveal a strange expression. Zhuowen stood 5 meters away and pointed his black long spear at Zhao Wuji from afar. His clear voice slowly rang out. Did Zhao Yaoting send you to your death? However, I can show you a way out. If you turn around now and get lost, perhaps you can still live. Otherwise, I'm afraid you will have to go to hell. Zhao Wuji and the purple court guards behind him could not help but be stunned when they heard this. Their gazes were focused on the young man in front of them. They did not expect that a brat at the initial Earth King realm could be so arrogant and wild. Haha, seems like there is something wrong with this brat's brain. He actually walked up to us alone and asked us to get lost? This is the funniest joke I have ever heard. After a pause, Zhao Wuji's shoulders suddenly trembled violently. He actually laughed out loud as if he had heard the funniest joke. Following Zhao Wuji's laughter, the purple court guards behind him also burst into laughter as a mocking smile appeared on their faces. Bang! A bolt of lightning suddenly exploded in the air, and Zhao Wuji's laughter came to an abrupt end. This was because a figure covered in lightning had taken a step forward and actually stomped on his chest. The huge force instantly caused Zhao Wuji to roll off the horse in a sorry state. Did you enjoy laughing? Continue laughing. Continue laughing. With a flash, Zhuowen ruthlessly stomped on Zhao Wuji's chest. His other leg was as fast as the wind as it ruthlessly kicked towards Zhao Wuji's mouth. Pa! Pa! Loud and clear sounds of footsteps resounded incessantly in the arena. For a moment everyone was stunned. They could only stare blankly at Zhao Wuji, who was being stepped on, as well as the figure of the youth, who was continuously stepping on him. Chapter 252. Completely annihilated Pucci. Zhao Wuji's face instantly swelled up as fresh blood mixed with broken teeth spurted out from his mouth. Veins were already popping out on his forehead. He did not expect Zhuowen's speed to be so fast. In the blink of an eye, he had kicked him to the ground. He did not even have the time to react. Ah, little bastard, I'll definitely kill you. With a somewhat muffled shout, a mountain-like aura suddenly burst out from his body. Following which, Zhao Wuji's right hand suddenly grabbed Zhuowen's right leg in an attempt to trip him. Zhuowen's gaze slightly focused as he instantly saw through Zhao Wuji's intentions. With a stretch of his right hand, his long black spear was like a black python, as it shot towards Zhao Wuji's forehead with a swoosh sound. Zhao Wuji's expression drastically changed as he hurriedly released his right hand and rolled on the ground, narrowly dodging Zhuowen's spear. Kill me? I'd like to see how you're going to kill me. With a cold snort, Zhuowen's foot fiercely stomped as countless lightning bolts spread out from under his feet. His figure was like lightning as he viciously kicked Zhao Wuji's chest. Bang! Zhao Wuji was like a rubber ball as his entire body continuously slid on the ground. He slid for a total of 20 meters before coming to a stop as he vomited blood. Ziting guards attack. Kill this brat for me. A trace of fear finally surfaced on Zhao Wuji's face. From the very beginning, he had been suppressed and beaten by this ordinary youth before him. This feeling was extremely sullen. You dare to injure the captain? Everyone attack. Kill, kill, kill. Behead this brat, and we'll have done a great service. There were a total of 25 Ziting guards. After hearing Zhao Wuji's heart-wrenching order, They finally recovered from their daze. Although there was a trace of fear in their eyes, they still fearlessly charged towards Zhuowen with their numbers advantage. "Come at me." A wave of fighting intent instantly gushed out from Zhuowen's chest. With a loud roar, Zhuowen raised his spear and fearlessly charged forward. Fiend Moon Secret Codex, Moon-Filling Tower. He took a step forward and shook his hands. The black spear was like a bolt of lightning as it drew an arc in the air. With a whoosh, it turned into a silver arc of light and pierced towards the nearest purple court guard. The purple court guard soldier's expression changed slightly. He raised the weapon in his hand in an attempt to block the spear radiance that was shooting towards him. Kacha! A clear breaking sound suddenly rang out. Soon after, the weapon in the soldier's hand was broken into two. The spear flashed and pierced through the soldier's forehead. Fresh blood spurted out. The soldier's eyes widened as he fell straight to the ground. A dazzling arc of light instantly swept across the empty ground. In the blink of an eye, 5 or 6 purple court guards were bleeding from their foreheads as they fell to the ground one after another. After instantly killing 5 or 6 purple court guards, Zhuowen licked his lips. The battle intent and killing intent in his eyes had already risen to the peak. With a loud roar, his entire body instantly erupted with countless bolts of lightning. They were like countless lightning snakes that coiled around Zhuowen's back and forcefully transformed into a 10-meter-long pair of lightning wings. "I'll deal with all of you in one go." 6 wings of wind and lightning, lightning snake wings. Once the lightning snake wings were formed, Zhuowen took a step forward. The lightning wings on his back flapped gently, and he left behind countless shadows and bolts of lightning. The spear in his hand instantly pierced out. Wrapped in lightning snakes, it suddenly shot towards the remaining purple court guards. In an instant, dazzling lightning radiance flickered in the entire space, after which, miserable shrieks suddenly rose and fell, and resounded throughout the entire area. Whoosh! Zhuowen, who had a 10-meter-long pair of lightning wings on his back, instantly returned to his original position. His gaze was as calm as water as he stared at the remaining purple court guards. The purple court guards that were originally charging forward seemed to have frozen at this moment. All of their eyes protruded out of their sockets. This lasted for 3 breaths of time before blood mist spurted out from the purple court guards. Bang! 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 Without any warning, the purple court guards fell one after another. There was no sign of life on their bodies. Clearly they were all dead. The scene instantly became incomparably silent. Regardless of whether it was Zhao Wuji, who was clutching his chest, or Zhao Tongyu and Zhao Wenqian, who were in the carriages, all of them stared blankly at the 25 fallen purple court guards. As members of the Zhao family, Zhao Tongyu and Zhao Wenqian were very clear about how terrifying the purple court guards were. When this team took action, even an initial Heavenly King stage practitioner would find it difficult to deal with them. However, in just the time it took to brew a cup of tea, such an extremely powerful team had actually been completely eliminated by Zhuowen. How is this possible? How is this possible? How can my purple court guards lose? This is impossible. Zhao Wuji's eyes immediately turned scarlet red. He had nurtured the purple court guards bit by bit. Every single member was like his family. Now that the purple court guards had been eliminated, Zhao Wuji had already lost his mind. "Little bastard, even if I die, I will drag you to see the king of hell and avenge my brothers." With a heart-wrenching roar, Zhao Wuji actually took out a blood-red pill and swallowed it without hesitation. Violent blood pill. Looking at the blood-red pill that Zhao Wuji swallowed, Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. The one-eyed man had used this violent blood pill before, so Zhuowen recognized it with a single glance. Boom! Countless blood veins densely covered Zhao Wuji's entire body, and his face was also wrapped with many blood veins, making him look rather sinister and ugly. At the same time, a suffocating aura suddenly erupted from Zhao Wuji's body. This aura had actually already surpassed the perfect Earth King stage. Initial Heavenly King stage? Not good. After Zhao Wuji consumed the violent blood pill, his strength actually soared to the initial Heavenly King stage. "I'm afraid Zhuowen is in danger." Feeling the soaring aura from Zhao Wuji's body, Zhao Tongyu's beautiful face changed greatly as she cried out in alarm. Zhao Wenqian, who was beside her, had her hands clasped together. Her watery eyes were already filled with a bit of mist, causing one to feel pity for her. Ah, little bastard, you will definitely die. Zhao Wuji's eyes were scarlet red as he stared fixedly at Zhuowen in front of him, and a beast-like sound came from his throat. Your sister. So what if you're at the Heavenly King stage? I'll still fight. With a cold snort, Zhuowen's footsteps were like the wind. The lightning snake wings on his back flapped fiercely, and he turned into a bolt of lightning, instantly arriving in front of the somewhat crazy Zhao Wuji. With a sweep of his right hand, a powerful force almost caused a strong explosion in the air, and in the end, it heavily struck Zhao Wuji's chest. Dang dang dang. However, what surprised Zhuowen was that Zhao Wuji did not lose his mind in such a situation. He raised his right elbow to block Zhuowen's sweeping spear, clenched his left fist tightly, and punched out heavily, directly imprinting onto Zhuowen's chest. Humph! With a cold snort, Zhuowen's mind moved, and the 10-foot-long lightning wings on his back immediately closed, wrapping around his chest to form a layer of lightning barrier, instantly blocking Zhao Wuji's fist. I've said it before, so what if you're a Heavenly King stage martial artist? Moreover, you are only at the initial level of the Heavenly King stage, so you are not a threat to me. After blocking Zhao Wuji's fist, Zhuowen bit his thumb and smeared his blood on the surface of the Demon Moon Dragon Spine Spear. The black surface was immediately dyed red, and a demonic blood light slowly rose from the spear. Demon Moon Secret Manual 2nd Style, Blood Moon Soul. The Demon Moon Secret Manual was a set of cultivation techniques contained within the Demon Moon Dragon Spine Spear that could be used together with a magic treasure. It could allow the Demon Moon Dragon Spine Spear, which was only a middle-rank spiritual treasure, to display the powerful strength of a high-rank spiritual treasure. The Demon Moon Secret Manual had a total of 5 styles. The first 2 styles were Full Moon Tower and Blood Moon Soul. However, Zhuowen did not know the last 3 styles. It was said that the Demon Moon Dragon Spine Spear had to be upgraded to a high-rank spiritual treasure in order to display the power of the last 3 styles. With a nimble twist of his fingers, the long spear between his fingers started to spin continuously. At the same time, a huge blood-red full moon slowly rose from the void behind Zhuowen. A bloodthirsty and valiant aura immediately poured out. Boom! The long spear turned into a red light and instantly pierced through Zhao Wuji's elbow, directly shooting towards his chest. With a piercing sound, the long spear pierced through his body, bringing with it a pillar of blood that shot out violently. Zhao Wuji looked at the blood-red spear in his chest in disbelief. Blood continuously flowed from his mouth as he stared at Zhuowen, and slowly fell to the ground. Bang! The sound of a heavy object falling to the ground slowly rang out. When Zhao Tongyu and the rest saw Zhao Wuji's figure slowly falling to the ground, they could not help but suck in a breath of cold air, and their lips involuntarily trembled. Zhao Wuji is actually dead. Zhuowen, how can he be so strong? Even Zhao Wuji, who had consumed the berserk blood pill, was not his match. Zhao Tongyu opened her mouth and could not help but mutter. Zhao Wenqian, who was beside her, had a relaxed smile on her pretty face. Her watery eyes narrowed into a slit, and a trace of worship flickered within them. She did not expect that even the purple court guard was not a match for the young man before her. So besides being shocked, there was also a trace of reverence and pleasant surprise. After returning to the carriage, Zhuowen patted his hands, as if he had done something unimportant, and his face was as calm as water from beginning to end. Zhuowen, Zhao Wuji is really dead. Zhao Tongyu felt a little dizzy, and could not help but ask. Zhao Wuji's corpse is right there. If you don't believe me, you can go over and flip over his corpse to confirm it. Pulling the reins, Zhuowen climbed onto the horse, and said to Zhao Tongyu with a faint smile. Zhao Tongyu laughed bitterly as she glanced at Zhao Wuji, who was lying on the ground with his eyes wide open. She was very clear that Zhao Wuji was indeed dead, but she did not dare to believe it. After all, Zhao Wuji was a rather famous expert in the Zhao clan. No matter if it was fame or strength, it far surpassed her. However, such an existence that she looked up to in the past was now easily dealt with by Zhuowen. This caused Zhao Tongyu to be unable to accept it for a while. Let's go. We will arrive at Broken Rock City soon. The purple court guard that Zhao Yaoding sent this time was very strong. Now that they have been completely annihilated, Zhao Yaoding will probably not send anyone else to assassinate you. After speaking indifferently, Zhuowen took the lead and galloped along the road. At this moment, everyone in the carriage had already faintly regarded Zhuowen as their leader. Now that they saw Zhuowen take the lead, they followed one after another. Chapter 253. Broken Rock City. Zhao Yaoding sat on a wooden chair in a loft of the Zhao family. He held a teacup in his hand as he sipped his tea quietly. A white-haired elder in a long white robe with a solemn expression sat opposite Zhao Yaoding. He frowned slightly and said, "Yaoding, do you think that the assassination of Zhao Wenqian will succeed?" "First elder, don't worry. This time, I have even sent out my purple court guards. It is hard for me to imagine that the purple court guards will not be able to deal with that insignificant Zhao Wenqian." Zhao Yaoding took a sip of tea and said with a faint smile, "Oh, it is actually the purple court guards. If that is the case, then I am completely at ease. Zhao Wenqian is the only obstacle to your ascension to the position of the family head. As long as this woman completely disappears, the position of the next family head will undoubtedly belong to you." The first elder smiled and said with a complacent expression, "Thud thud thud." Hurried footsteps suddenly sounded from outside the door, causing Zhao Yaoding and the first elder to frown. A black-clothed servant scrambled into the room with a flustered expression on his face. "Servant, you are becoming more and more outrageous. I am discussing an important matter with the first elder, and you actually barged in without knocking. Do you believe that I will directly chop you up?" Zhao Yaoding's eyes were filled with a chilling intent as he stared coldly at the kneeling black-clothed servant below him. "Master, please spare me. I have an important matter to report. Therefore I was muddle-headed and barged in." The black-clothed servant knelt on the ground and said while trembling, "Important matter? Is it related to the purple court guards?" Zhao Yaoding's eyes flashed when he heard this as he asked anxiously, "Master is right. I am here to report information regarding the purple court guards." The black-clothed servant lowered his head and said respectfully, "I don't need you to report this matter. I know the outcome. With this young master's violet court guards taking action, Zhao Wenqian and the others are dead for sure. I'm afraid Zhao Wuji is already on the way back with Zhao Wenqian's head on his way back." Zhao Yaoding interrupted the black-clothed servant who was about to speak but stopped, and he laughed loudly with complacency. "Yaoding, it seems that this old man must congratulate you this time. Now that you've gotten rid of Zhao Wenqian, you can sit back and relax." The great elder stood up and clasped his hands together. His old face was full of surprise and joy. "First elder, you also contributed to this matter. If you had not always stood by my side, I'm afraid that even if Zhao Wenqian had died today, Zhao Xuanwu would not have been willing to hand over the position of patriarch to me. When I ascend to the position of the patriarch, I will certainly not forget great elder's kindness." Zhao Yaoding was in a rather good mood as he spoke magnanimously. When the first elder heard this, he couldn't stop grinning from ear to ear. The black-clothed servant, who was kneeling on the ground, looked at the two people, who were imagining things in front of him, with a head full of cold sweat. He hesitated for a moment before he gritted his teeth and said, "Master, the Violet Court Guard's assassination has failed. Furthermore, according to the information from the scouts, the Violet Court Guards, including Lord Zhao Wuji, have been completely annihilated." Bang! Zhao Yaoding suddenly crushed the teacup in his hand. The smile on his face instantly froze. His eyes widened as he stared at the black-clothed servant in front of him in disbelief. He said, "What did you just say? Say it again." The laughter on the great elder's face instantly froze. He also focused his gaze on the black-clothed servant below. According to the information from the scouts, The Violet Court guards have been completely annihilated. I heard that the person who annihilated the Violet Court guards was a young man called Zhuowen. As for the young man's background, we do not know. We only know that the young man is not from Broken Rock City, and boom! Before the black-clothed servant could finish his sentence, he suddenly flew out like a falling leaf. Finally, he smashed through the door and landed in the courtyard outside. Fresh blood continuously spurted out like a fountain. His eyes bulged and he died immediately. Zhao Yaoting slowly withdrew his hand. His face was ashen and extremely ugly. He coldly muttered, "Zhuowen? He actually dared to kill my Violet Court guards. He is really bold. Great Elder, help me investigate this Zhuowen. I want to see his background. He actually dares to act so recklessly." The astonishment on the first elder's face slowly faded and was replaced by a grave expression. He was also well aware of the Purple Hall Guard's strength. Since he was able to wipe out the entire Purple Hall Guard, it meant that the young man called Zhuowen was not simple. I understand. I will investigate Zhuowen's background. However, what about Zhao Wenxian? Are we just going to let her return to the Zhao clan? The great elder hesitated for a moment before asking again. Zhao Yaoting's face became even uglier. He coldly snorted. Since the Violet Court guards have failed, there is no need to send anyone else. There is no time. However, so what if Zhao Wenxian returns to the Zhao clan? With the clan's resources that I currently control, since the soft approach does not work, I will use the hard approach. The position of the clan is mine. The great elder softly sighed. He knew that if Zhao Yaoting were to use the hard approach, the clan would likely be in chaos. Gazing into the distance, Zhuowen could not help but exclaim in admiration in his heart as he gazed at Broken Rock City, which was like a giant dragon entrenched in the ground. The Broken Rock City in front of him was truly an eye-opener for him. Just the city gate alone was made of huge black rocks and was dozens of feet tall. The huge city gate, which was cast from copper and iron, was extremely grand. Countless people entered and exited like a long dragon. The hubbub of voices was extremely noisy. It could be said that no matter if it was the size of the city or its prosperity, it was not something that the small Rattan Armor City could compare to. As expected of a super city, it is actually so grand and huge. I'm afraid that its size is equivalent to a few hundred Rattan Armor cities. Zhuowen softly muttered. However, there was some excitement in his heart. Zhao Tongyu and Zhao Wenxian, who were behind him, looked strangely at the young man who was looking around like a country bumpkin. They could not imagine that the body of this curious young man actually contained a powerful strength that even a perfect Earth King stage expert could not compare to. The convoy led by Zhao Tongyu had the symbol of the Zhao family. Therefore, the group smoothly passed through the inspection of the city gate guards and entered Broken Rock City without any obstructions. After entering the city, their line of sight suddenly became clear. The hubbub of voices came from all directions. The lively atmosphere in the city was actually many times better than in Rattan Armor City. Even the streets inside were as wide as a plaza. Big Brother Zhuowen, it is all thanks to you that we have this journey. Otherwise, I'm afraid that we would have met with misfortune along the way. You must be tired from this journey. Why don't you come to our Zhao family? My father will definitely treat you well. Zhuowen's beautiful face was flushed as she turned her head and invited Zhuowen. Yes, Zhuowen, you have helped us greatly this time. If the patriarch knows, he will probably reward you heavily. Zhao Tongyu looked at the young man in front of her with a face full of hope. Zhuowen and Grandmaster Kuraki looked at each other, but shook their heads and said, "Sorry. We still have important things to do, so we probably can't go to your Zhao family now. I will go to your Zhao family in 2 days. After all, I still have to ask your father about my aunt's whereabouts." Hearing this, a trace of disappointment flashed across Zhao Wenxian's beautiful face. However, she still forced a smile and said, "So it's like this. Big Brother Zhuowen, you must come to our Zhao family in 2 days. You are so powerful at such a young age. I'm afraid that my father will be very happy to meet you." "Yes, I will." With a wave of his hand, Zhuowen followed Grandmaster Kuraki and left the city gate. Zhao Wenxian's beautiful eyes stared at Zhuowen's back until Zhuowen's back disappeared from her sight. Then, she withdrew her gaze in disappointment. She turned her head and saw Zhao Tongyu looking at her with a teasing expression. Zhao Wenqian's beautiful face immediately turned red. She was a little embarrassed and said, "Big sister Tongyu, why are you looking at me like that? You still can't bear to part with your big brother Zhuowen? Look at your reluctant eyes. Little girl, have you taken a fancy to that Zhuowen?" Zhao Tongyu's beautiful eyes were full of teasing as she said mischievously. Hearing this, Zhao Wenqian's beautiful face turned even redder. She lowered her head in embarrassment and said in a low voice, "Big sister Tongyu, you're teasing me again. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. I can feel that this Zhuowen is not simple. He was able to reach the Earth King stage at such a young age, and was even able to easily kill Zhao Wuji. Which beauty wouldn't be moved by such a man? Even I, your big sister Tongyu, am a little moved." Zhao Tongyu's beautiful eyes suddenly looked in the direction that Zhuowen left in, and muttered in a low voice, "Old Song Mu, are we going to the Arcane Guild to take the test now?" Following beside Grandmaster Song Mu, Zhuowen suddenly opened his mouth and asked. Originally, Zhuowen planned to head directly to the Zhao family and meet the Zhao family's patriarch, Zhao Xuanwu, to ask about the whereabouts of his aunt Zhuo Meijin. However, Grandmaster Song Mu transmitted a message to him and asked him to go to the Arcane Guild to take the test and obtain the badge first. The arcane ceremony is about to begin. Only arcanists who have the badge can participate. If you don't want to miss the arcane ceremony, I advise you to take the test as soon as possible. Grandmaster Song Mu glanced at Zhuowen and said in an indifferent tone. When he heard about the arcane ceremony, Zhuowen shrugged his shoulders and did not say anything else. Instead, he silently followed behind Grandmaster Song Mu. Along the way, Zhuowen's horizons were broadened. However, just as Zhuowen passed by a rather inconspicuous small store, his eyelids suddenly twitched. Immediately, he felt that the blue metal plate he obtained from the ancient cave had actually started to stir. His footsteps suddenly stopped. Zhuowen's eyes suddenly emitted a trace of brilliance. He clearly knew what the abnormal movement of the blue metal plate meant. It was likely that one of the chapters of the 6 Wings of Tempest was nearby. "Kid, what's wrong?" Grandmaster Song Mu also noticed that Zhuowen had suddenly stopped and could not help but ask in confusion. "Old Song Mu, go to the Arcane Guild and help me arrange the test matters first. I still have some things to do now. I will go to the Arcane Guild later and directly take the test at that time." Zhuowen waved his hand and said somewhat absent-mindedly, "Kid, why are you so troublesome? I will take my leave first. Come quickly later." Grandmaster Song Mu did not suspect anything. He softly muttered and left first. Chapter 254. 2 types of earth fire. The shop was very small and narrow, with a row of broken shelves on all 4 sides. These shelves had accumulated quite a bit of black dust, and exquisite wooden carvings were neatly arranged on the shelves. As he browsed through the wooden carvings on the shelves, Zhuowen's face revealed a trace of surprise. Even though these wooden carvings were exquisite, they were all half-finished products, and not a single one was complete. No wonder this shop's business was so bleak. It turned out that the wooden carvings on display were all half-finished products. No matter how exquisite the carvings were, no one would be willing to buy half-finished products. In the innermost part of the shop, a middle-aged man in his 40s held a carving knife, as he focused on carving the wooden carvings in his hands. He completely ignored Zhuowen's arrival. Even though he was a little surprised by the shop owner's attitude, Zhuowen did not pay too much attention to it. He shrugged his shoulders as he carefully sensed the abnormal movements of the blue metal piece. He could feel that when he entered the shop, the movement of the blue metal piece had also increased. Looks like one of the chapters of the 6 Wings of Wind and Lightning must be in this shop. I wonder where it is placed. Lifting his head and looking at the shelves around him, Zhuowen secretly thought in his heart. Just as Zhuowen passed by an inconspicuous shelf, he noticed a trace of blue light flickering at the corner of the shelf. Moving away the wooden carvings at the corner of the shelf, Zhuowen's eyes flashed. A dark blue metal piece actually appeared in his line of sight. Furthermore, Zhuowen could see that the surface of this blue metal piece actually had a pattern of a flood dragon. Clearly, this recorded the lightning flood dragon wings of the 6 wings of wind and lightning. Picking up the blue metal piece, Zhuowen's face could not help but reveal a trace of joy as he muttered to himself. Looks like coming to Broken Rock City this time was the right choice. I actually found the second fragment of the 6 wings of wind and lightning so quickly. Kid, your luck is really good. Not long after you obtained the lightning snake wings, you found the lightning flood dragon wings. Looks like this wind and lightning sacred symbol is destined to have some fate with you. Xiao Hei's voice involuntarily rang out in his mind at this moment. Zhuowen smiled. His smile was filled with excitement and joy. He carefully held the piece of metal. Feeling the cold touch of the metal, Zhuowen forcibly suppressed the excitement in his body. At this moment, the middle-aged man in the shop had finally finished dealing with the wooden carving in his hands. However, he still did not raise his head. His somewhat aged voice reverberated in the room. Do you want to buy wood carvings? Upon hearing the man's inquiry, Zhuowen smiled. He walked to the front of the counter and handed over the blue metal piece in his hand to the man. He politely asked, "Shopkeeper, do you still have this kind of metal piece here?" Upon hearing Zhuowen's question, the middle-aged man's hand that was holding the carving knife suddenly trembled. He frowned slightly and lifted his head. His gaze swept across the metal piece in Zhuowen's hand as an indescribable expression flashed across his eyes. Gazing at the face that appeared in front of him, Zhuowen could not help but be stunned. The right side of the face was actually filled with scars. It could be said that the face was completely ruined. If someone who did not know about it suddenly saw this face, they would definitely be shocked. The middle-aged man narrowed his eyes and coldly stared at Zhuowen. He indifferently said, "Young friend, why are you asking about this metal piece? Could it be that you have seen a similar metal piece before?" Upon hearing this, Zhuowen's gaze flickered. He smiled and shook his head. "I once saw a similar metal piece in an auction. At that time, I only felt that it was extraordinary. Unfortunately, the price was too high, so I gave up on it. Today, I saw a similar metal piece here, so I asked out of curiosity." The Wind Thunder sacred symbol was after all a treasure of the world. If others knew that the metal piece contained the secret of the Wind Thunder sacred symbol, it was likely that Zhuowen would become the enemy of the entire world. In fact, he would not even have a chance to obtain this metal piece. The middle-aged man glanced meaningfully at Zhuowen and coldly said, "No, I obtained this metal piece by accident. Furthermore, I can sense that this metal piece is incomplete." Zhuowen could not help but feel somewhat helpless when he heard the middle-aged man's indifferent reply. He could only continue, "Old sir, are you willing to sell this metal piece? I am willing to buy it at a high price." "I'm not selling it." The middle-aged man ignored Zhuowen and lowered his head to continue carving. His tone was filled with unquestionable authority. Zhuowen did not expect the middle-aged man to reject him so directly. His eyes narrowed. No matter what, he was determined to obtain this metal piece. After cultivating the lightning serpent wings, Zhuowen could sense the extraordinariness and strength of a cultivation method, like the 6 wings of wind and lightning. Just the lightning serpent wings alone gave him unrivaled speed under the ultimate emperor stage. If he learned the lightning serpent wings as well, his speed would probably be as fast as lightning, comparable to an ultimate emperor stage cultivator. At that time, even an ultimate emperor stage cultivator might not be able to kill Zhuowen. Just as Zhuowen's mind was filled with a myriad of thoughts, Xiao Hei's voice suddenly rang out in his mind. "Kid, this middle-aged man is not simple. Don't be rash." Zhuowen's heart trembled when he heard this. He asked curiously, "Could it be that this ordinary-looking man is an expert?" "Yes. If my investigation is correct, this person's original strength should be at the ultimate emperor stage. However, there is another force within his body that is constantly suppressing his yuan power, causing his strength to remain at the level of a half-step ultimate emperor stage cultivator. Moreover, this person's battle prowess definitely surpasses that of an ordinary half-step ultimate emperor stage cultivator. You won't be able to gain anything from him at all, Xiaohei secretly said. Oh, he's actually an ultimate emperor stage cultivator? I never thought that such an inconspicuous shop would be hiding such an expert. Zhuowen's eyes flickered. He could not help but feel astonished. The middle-aged man suddenly raised his head and stared at the unwilling youth before him. He sneered, "Kid, don't even think about my metal plate anymore. I don't care about money, and I'm not afraid of you robbing me, because as far as I'm concerned, robbing me is the most unwise thing to do." Zhuowen shook his head and smiled faintly. "If I can help you recover your strength in a short amount of time, would you still be unwilling to sell this metal plate to me?" Crack! A crisp sound immediately rang out. The carving knife in the middle-aged man's hand had actually been broken. The middle-aged man's pupils shrank slightly as he stared fixedly at the youth before him. "Who are you? How can you tell that I'm injured?" His injuries were extremely obscure. Even an ultimate emperor stage cultivator might not necessarily be able to tell that he was injured. However, this ordinary-looking youth before him had actually pointed out his injuries in an instant. This caused the middle-aged man to be both surprised and delighted. "Who I am isn't important. What's important is that I can heal your injuries and allow you to regain your peak strength." A faint smile appeared at the corners of Zhuowen's mouth. His face was filled with confidence. Earlier, Xiaohei had checked the man's injuries and discovered that the energy that had been suppressing his strength was actually a type of earth stage cold qi. This type of cold qi corresponded with the earth fire and was a rather troublesome energy to deal with. This was also why the man before him was suppressed by the cold qi, even though he was clearly an ultimate emperor stage cultivator. However, Zhuowen possessed the ice fire sacred rune and 2 types of earth fire. The middle-aged man's cold qi was like a maggot in one's bones. "Why should this old man believe you? Although you have some eyesight and can see my injuries, even this old man can't do anything about them. Don't tell me that a little Earth King brat like you can." The middle-aged man quickly regained his senses and looked at Zhuowen with an unfriendly expression as he spoke coldly. "The energy that has been suppressing your strength is probably a type of cold qi. The only thing that can get rid of this cold qi is a unique natural flame, and I just happen to possess this unique flame." As he spoke, Zhuowen took a step forward and countless 9 heavens thunder inferno flames immediately surged out from behind him. Finally, they gathered in the palm of his right hand and turned into a ball of blue lightning fire that was composed of lightning and fire. It burned fiercely in the palm of his hand. "This is the Earth Stage 9 Heavens Thunder Inferno Flame?" The middle-aged man stared at the blue lightning fire in Zhuowen's palm. The expression on his face became extremely interesting, and he could not help but exclaim in surprise. "It seems that you have also recognized the 9 Heavens Thunder Inferno Flame in my palm. With the power of this flame, it should be enough to get rid of the cold qi in your body." Zhuowen could not help but smile when he saw the shock on the man's face. However, the middle-aged man shook his head and said, "You possess an earth fire like the 9 Heavens Thunder Inferno Flame at such a young age. It seems that your background is not simple. Unfortunately, the cold qi in my body is extreme frost. It is the most terrifying type of earth stage cold qi. I'm afraid that the 9 Heavens Thunder Inferno Flame alone will not be able to get rid of it." Extreme frost? Zhuowen's pupils suddenly shrank when he heard this. He had heard of extreme frost before. It was also a type of earth stage cold qi. However, the extreme frost's power was above all other earth stage cold qi. Its power was almost infinitely close to the heaven stage cold qi. It was the overlord of all earth stage cold qi. The 9 Heavens Thunder Inferno Flame was indeed much weaker than it. Therefore, you should give up. Unless it is a heavenly fire or 2 earth fires, the cold qi in my body will not be able to get rid of the extreme frost. The middle-aged man's mouth revealed a bitter smile as he spoke with waning interest. "I don't have a heavenly fire on me. However, I do have 2 earth fires." With a faint smile, Zhuowen suddenly waved his left hand, and a green fire lotus immediately appeared in his left palm. Countless green sparks floated around the green fire, refining lotus like snowflakes, looking gorgeous and colorful. Bang! The middle-aged man's left hand stiffened. The half-finished wooden carving in his hand immediately fell to the ground. He stared in disbelief at the young man in front of him, who was holding the 9 heavens thunder inferno flame in one hand, and the 3,000 green lotus flame in the other. His entire body involuntarily trembled. 9 heavens thunder inferno flame, and 3,000 green lotus flame? You actually possess 2 earth fires at the same time. You. The middle-aged man felt that he was speaking incoherently. He could only stare blankly at the young man in front of him. Chapter 255. Arcana Master Examination. Bang. The middle-aged man waved his right hand, and yuan power poured out, shutting the door of his shop. At this moment, the former's face was full of seriousness as he stared at the youth in front of him and said, I really did not expect that you would possess 2 types of earth fire at such a young age. Looks like the heavens are on my side. So you agreed to give this piece of metal to me? Zhuowen's eyes flickered as he said indifferently, Since you possess 2 types of earth fire, then you will have a way to deal with the extreme frost in my body. So what if I give you this piece of metal? However, I still need you to help me deal with the extreme frost in my body before I can give you this piece of metal without worry. Furthermore, I will owe you a favor. How about it? The middle-aged man nodded and said indifferently. When Zhuowen heard this, he was instantly delighted. He did not expect that after dealing with the extreme frost in the middle-aged man's body, not only would he be able to obtain the piece of metal, he would also be able to obtain a favor from this person. Zhuowen naturally would not reject such a good deal. After all, the middle-aged man in front of him was a genuine Ultimate Emperor stage expert at his peak. Even though he was only at the first wheel Ultimate Emperor stage, he was still in existence that could call the wind and summon the rain in Broken Rock City. Of course. However, I still have some matters to attend to. I will come back to your shop tomorrow and help you deal with the extreme frost in your body, Zhuowen said with a grin as he nodded slightly. When Qiuqiu heard this, he was slightly disappointed and said, Since you still have matters to attend to, you can go and attend to them first. I have waited for so many years, a mere day is no big deal. My name is Qiuqiu. Kid, what's your name? My name is Zhuowen, see you tomorrow. Right now, I have to attend to some matters first. After casually greeting him, Zhuowen waved his hand and left the shop. Qiuqiu's eyes narrowed as he watched the figure gradually leave. He muttered to himself, There doesn't seem to be a large family with the surname Zhua in Broken Rock City. Furthermore, this kid possesses 2 types of earth fire. Clearly, he should be a disciple from another large faction. However, why have I never heard of the name Zhuowen? After leaving the shop, Zhuowen headed towards the Arcane Guild. Although he wasn't familiar with Broken Rock City, the Arcane Guild's building was too iconic. The Arcane Guild's building was like a steeple that protruded out of the city. The tower-like building that was hundreds of feet tall stood out in the city. Even if Zhuowen did not know the way, he would be able to reach the Arcane Guild as long as he followed the direction of the tower-like building. When Zhuowen passed through several long streets and finally arrived at the Arcane Guild, he finally saw the true face of the Arcane Guild up close. Just by standing in front of the door, Zhuowen could feel the majestic and towering building in front of him. There were people dressed in Arcana Master's uniform walking in and out of the entrance. Clearly, these people were all genuine Arcana Masters. Zhuowen even saw a rank 3 Arcana Master among them. As expected of the Arcane Guild, the Arcana Masters that are usually hard to see are everywhere now. Zhuowen praised in a low voice and walked in. There was a rather spacious hall inside. The floor was paved with marble, and the sound of footsteps could be heard constantly. The number of Arcana Masters inside was actually much more than outside. There was a counter facing the door. On the counter, a smiling woman in green was talking to other people dressed as Arcana Masters. Zhuowen knew that this woman was probably in charge of some basic affairs in this hall. Thinking of this, Zhuowen walked towards the counter. The woman in green also noticed Zhuowen, but when she realized that Zhuowen did not have an Arcana Master's badge on him, The smile on her face faded a little. However, she still asked politely, "This little brother looks unfamiliar. It should be your first time in our arcane guild, right?" "Yes." Zhuowen nodded slightly and said, "This time, I'm here to take the Arcana Master's qualification test. My master's name is Tsang Mu. He arrived earlier than me, so he should have arranged the test for me." "Oh, you're Zhuowen, Master Tsang Mu's disciple?" The woman in green focused her gaze and looked at the young man in front of her with some surprise. "Yes. Is there a problem?" Zhuowen frowned. "No. Master Tsang Mu did ask me to arrange for you to take the Arcana Master's qualification test, but I didn't expect you to be so young. I guess you're here to take the Grade 1 Arcana Master's test." The smile on the woman in green's face grew wider and wider as she led Zhuowen into the inner room of the hall. "No. I'm here to take the Grade 2 Arcana Master's qualification test," Zhuowen said casually. Before he came, Master Tsang Mu had already said that he should not take the Grade 3 Arcana Master's test. After all, Zhuowen still needed to participate in the Arcana ceremony. If he swaggered and obtained the Grade 3 Arcana Master's badge, he would become the target of everyone in the Arcana ceremony. If that happened, it would be very disadvantageous for Zhuowen to obtain victory in the Arcana ceremony. The woman in green who was leading the way suddenly stopped in her tracks and almost collided with Zhuowen. Fortunately, Zhuowen reacted quickly and stopped in time. "Little brother, you said you want to take the Grade 2 Arcana Master's qualification test? Has your spiritual power reached the 2nd grade?" The woman in green slightly opened her cherry lips and stared at Zhuowen in front of her as she trembled slightly. The young man in front of her looked to be only 16 or 17 years old, but his spiritual power had already reached the 2nd grade at such a young age. Wasn't this talent a little terrifying? One had to know that in Broken Rock City, if one's spiritual power reached the 1st grade at Zhuowen's age, they would already be considered extremely talented. If one reached the 2nd grade, they would be a monster, and the young man in front of her was probably that monster. Looking at the shocked expression on the woman's face, Zhuowen shrugged indifferently. If the woman in front of him knew that his spiritual power had actually reached the 3rd grade, what kind of expression would she have? "Sir, you are really young and promising. You have the strength of a Grade 2 Arcana Master at such a young age. It seems that you have a bright future ahead of you." The woman in green's expression became even more respectful. She knew very well what such a young Grade 2 Arcana Master represented. However, although you have the strength of a Grade 2 Arcana Master, you do not have the badge of a Grade 1 Arcana Master. Therefore, if you want to receive the badge, you will still have to take the Grade 1 Arcana Master's qualification test. "I understand. Lead me to take the Grade 1 Arcana Master's examination first." Zhuowen nodded slightly and said indifferently. The woman in green nodded and led Zhuowen forward. A moment later, they stopped at a large door. Outside the door, there were several burly men who were fully armed and guarding the door. The burly men guarding the door were all in the Human King realm. This made Zhuowen involuntarily click his tongue. It seemed that the Arcana Guild was indeed rich and imposing. Even the guards at the door had such strength. At this moment, a fragrant wind assaulted his nostrils. Immediately, a petite figure overtook Zhuowen and stopped at the front. Then, she ignored Zhuowen and turned her head around. She said to the person behind her in a lovely voice, "Cousin, you are so slow. Hurry up, the test is about to start." Frowning slightly, Zhuowen did not expect that someone would cut in front of him. Such impolite behavior naturally made Zhuowen unhappy. "Anyway, I am not in a hurry. After all, the one preparing for the Grade 1 Arcana Master's examination is you, not me." A lazy voice slowly sounded from behind. Turning his head to take a look, Zhuowen discovered that at the end of the corridor behind him, there was a young man about 20 years old. The young man was yawning as he slowly walked over with a lazy expression. However, Zhuowen's gaze was focused on the badge on the young man's chest. He saw that there were 2 golden stripes carved on the badge. Grade 2 Arcana Master. Muttering in a low voice, Zhuowen was a little surprised by the talent of the young man in front of him. To be able to become a grade 2 arcana master at the age of 20, he was probably one of the top geniuses in the entire Broken Rock City. Turning his head again, Zhuowen's gaze landed on the young girl in front of him. The young girl was wearing a purple arcana master's uniform. Her age was about the same as Zhuowen's. Her delicate face was somewhat charming, and her body was slightly petite. However, her development was quite curvaceous. Even the loose uniform could not hide her graceful figure. As if sensing Zhuowen's gaze, the young girl tilted her head slightly and looked at the ordinary clothes on Zhuowen. Her delicate nose could not help but wrinkle as a trace of contempt flashed in her eyes. In her opinion, the young man in front of her did not even have an Arcana Master's uniform, yet he dared to participate in the Arcana Master's test. He simply did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. What are you looking at? Take care of your eyeballs. Otherwise, this lady will gouge out your dog eyes. The young girl rolled her eyes at Zhuowen and snappily said. Hearing the young girl's somewhat unruly words, Zhuowen coldly laughed in his heart and indifferently said, Don't you know the principle of a good dog not blocking the way? Moreover, your figure doesn't seem to be worthy of my attention. You're courting death. The young girl gritted her teeth as her cheeks flushed red with anger. What she was most proud of was her curvaceous figure. Now, it was being degraded by the young man in front of her. Moreover, Zhuowen's words were so unscrupulous that the young girl was naturally enraged. Whoosh! As she spoke, the young girl actually took out a slender whip from her Qingquan bag. With a flick of her jade-like hand, she actually directly lashed it towards Zhuowen. Looking at the whip that shot towards him like a flame, Zhuowen's expression darkened. He did not expect the young girl in front of him to be so unruly. She was so angry that she directly attacked him. Moreover, the power of the young girl's whip was very powerful. It was actually a high-grade spiritual treasure. She had used a high-grade spiritual treasure right off the bat. Obviously, the young girl intended to kill him. What a big-breasted but brainless woman. With a cold snort, lightning flashed under Zhuowen's feet, and he instantly dodged the young girl's whip attack. Following which, his right hand turned into a claw. His claw was filled with lightning as it grabbed towards the young girl's neck. The young girl's strength was not strong. At most, she was around the half-step human king realm. However, with the high-grade spiritual treasure in her hand, she was comparable to an initial human king realm expert. However, this did not pose any threat to Zhuowen at all. Chapter 256. The test begins. No one expected Zhuowen and the girl to attack in an instant. Moreover, Zhuowen's speed shocked the surrounding people. Before they could react, Zhuowen's claw was already about to grab the girl's neck. Stop! Just as Zhuowen's claw was about to grab the girl's neck, a loud shout rang out from behind. Then Zhuowen felt a gust of wind sweeping over from behind. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed slightly as he turned around and threw out a punch. It fiercely collided with the gust of wind. Then, the powerful force caused the two of them to involuntarily retreat. Zhuowen took 5 steps back, while the attacker behind him took 10 steps back. The attacker was the young man that the girl had just called out to. At this moment, the lazy expression on the young man's face had already disappeared and was replaced by a solemn expression. He had the strength of a perfect human king, but he had suffered a great loss at the hands of the young man in front of him. Could it be that this young man, who was younger than him, had the strength of an Earth King? The girl in green who led Zhuowen here was already stunned on the spot. She also did not expect the people in front of her to attack just like that. Moreover, she also recognized the young man and the girl in front of her. Both of them were direct descendants of the City Lord Mansion. The young man was called Ouyang Yuteo. Although his martial cultivation was not high, he had the strength of a perfect human king. However, this person's talent lay in his mental energy. He was only 20 years old this year, but his mental energy had already reached the perfect 2nd grade. He was only 1 step away from becoming a 3rd grade arcanist. He was considered a rather dazzling genius in the Arcane Guild. The girl was called Ouyang Shishue. She was Ouyang Yuteo's cousin. Although her mental energy talent was not as good as Ouyang Yateo's, she had also reached the first grade Arcanist level. Today, she had come to take the first grade Arcanist assessment. She did not expect to have a conflict with Zhuowen. At this moment, Ouyang Shishue's beautiful eyes were filled with fear. She looked at Ouyang Yateo, who was not far away, and a trace of disbelief appeared on her pretty face. She did not expect Ouyang Yateo, who was at the perfect human king realm, to be at a disadvantage in a confrontation with Zhuowen. My friend, I am Ouyang Yateo, a direct descendant of the city lord's mansion. Just now my sister was too impulsive. I hope you don't take it to heart. Ouyang Yateo looked at the young man in front of him with fear. In his opinion, the young man before him had the strength of an earth king at such a young age. He probably had a powerful background, so Ouyang Yateo did not want to make an enemy of him. I am Zhuowen. Since brother Zhuowen has said so, I will naturally not take it to heart. Zhuowen also cupped his hands. He glanced at the young lady behind him and said with a faint smile, Ouyang Shishue shrunk his neck as he fearfully glanced at Zhuowen. A trace of grievance flashed across his eyes. Ouyang Yateo was rather surprised as he looked at the calm Zhuowen in front of him. He had seen how ruthless Zhuowen was earlier. He did not expect that Zhuowen would become incomparably calm in an instant. This caused Ouyang Yateo to be rather curious. Brother Zhua, I presume that Brother Zhua is here to take the first rank Arcana Master exam as well. This time, I am accompanying my sister to take the exam. Why don't we go in together? Ouyang Yateo said rather politely, then we will respectfully accept. Nodding, the three of them stepped through the door. Watching the three disappear through the door, the green-clothed lady let out a sigh of relief. Then she returned the way she had come. After entering the door, the bright lights illuminated the interior. There were already quite a few people standing inside. From time to time, whispering laughter could be heard. After briefly scanning the hall, Zhuowen discovered that most of the people here were at least second-rank Arcana Masters. Zhuowen even discovered 2 third-rank Arcana Masters. One of these 2 Arcana Masters was actually Grandmaster Karaki. Beside Grandmaster Karaki was an old man wearing a long purple robe. He was about the same age as Grandmaster Karaki, and the two of them were currently discussing something. Ouyang Yateo and Ouyang Shishue, who were beside Zhuowen, stared at the old man beside Grandmaster Karaki as soon as they entered. Then they directly walked towards the old man. Master! Master! When the two of them arrived in front of the old man, they respectfully cupped their hands. Ouyang Shishue even hugged the old man's arm in a rather coquettish manner, appearing to be rather intimate. Yateo and Shishue, come, let me introduce you. This is a good friend of your master. His name is Karaki, and others call him Grandmaster Karaki. His mental energy has reached perfect third rank, and he is highly valued by our president and vice president. The old man hurriedly pulled Grandmaster Karaki to his side and introduced him to the two people in front of him with a smile. Perfect third rank mental energy? When the two of them heard this, a trace of respect immediately appeared on their faces. Grandmaster Karaki's mental energy cultivation was actually a level higher than their master's. He was probably only a step away from reaching fourth rank. That would truly be reaching the heavens in a single bound. Greetings, Grandmaster Karaki. The two of them immediately cupped their hands respectfully. No need for formalities. Xian Ling, this is the Ouyang Yateo that you have been talking about. He is only 23 years old this year, and his mental energy has actually reached perfect second rank. His talent is truly frightening. Grandmaster Karaki slightly smiled, his gaze fixed on Ouyang Yateo as he praised. When Grandmaster Xian Ling beside him heard Grandmaster Karaki's praise, a trace of pride immediately appeared on his face. He was most proud of having a genius disciple like Ouyang Yateo. Ouyang Yateo's talent was one of the best in the entire Broken Rock City. There were extremely few people who could reach second rank at his age, let alone perfect second rank. Karaki, I have heard that you have also accepted a disciple. After so many years, you have finally decided to accept a disciple, right? I wonder how your disciple's talent is? Xianling meaningfully glanced at Grandmaster Kuraki as he spoke. Haha, my disciple's talent is not bad, but it should not be comparable to your disciple. Moreover, he has only been cultivating mental energy for a short period of time. Grandmaster Kuraki touched his nose and lied against his will. To have mental energy talent, his talent is definitely not bad. Even if it is not comparable to Yateo, it should not be too far off. After hearing Grandmaster Kuraki's words, although Xianling's words were comforting, the proud smile on his face had already completely betrayed him. Old man Kuraki, has the test begun? A clear voice suddenly rang out, causing Xianling and the rest to involuntarily be startled. They did not expect that someone would actually dare to call Grandmaster Kuraki a grade 3 Arcana Master, Old man Kuraki. Could it be that there was something wrong with this person's brain? The few of them looked over and saw Zhuo Wenjing slowly walking over with a lazy expression. When Ouyang Shishui saw that the person was Zhuowen, a trace of fear surfaced in her beautiful eyes, and her hands involuntarily clasped together. On the other hand, Ouyang Yateo's gaze was sizing up Grandmaster Kuraki and Zhuowen as a pondering expression appeared on his face. Zhuowen, you are rather late. However, it is alright, the test has yet to begin. What caused the few of them to be somewhat surprised was that Grandmaster Kuraki's face did not have the slightest trace of anger. Instead, he was beaming as he spoke. Xianling. His name is Zhuowen, the disciple I mentioned. He is here to take the test to become a grade 1 Arcana Master. Grandmaster Kuraki slightly smiled as he introduced Zhuowen to Xianling beside him. Oh, he is so young, but his mental energy has already reached grade 1. His talent is not inferior to Shishui's. This disciple of yours is not bad. Shishui Yateo, come and greet Zhuowen. Xianling stroked his long beard as he smiled faintly. I did not expect Brother Zhua to be Grandmaster Kuraki's disciple. Yateo was not able to see that. Ouyang Yateo elegantly smiled. On the other hand, Ouyang Shishui bit her lower lip and rolled her eyes. She had no intention of going forward to greet him. She merely stood beside Xianling and glanced to the side, purposely not looking at Zhuowen as she muttered. So he is also here to take the test to become a grade 1 Arcana Master. Humph. He is even younger than me, so his mental energy is probably not that high either. Let's see how you embarrass yourself later. Zhuowen was indeed younger than Ouyang Shishui. In addition to Grandmaster Kuraki's humble words, Ouyang Shishui believed that Zhuowen's mental energy was not that high. She did not believe that Zhuowen's mental energy was that high even though his martial path was already so powerful. Just as everyone was patiently waiting in the hall, a tall and thin old man in white robes appeared at the front of the hall. The moment this old man appeared, the hall immediately fell silent. Everyone's gazes gathered on the old man's body. Even Grandmaster Kuraki and the others stopped talking and turned to look at the white-robed old man. It is actually the vice-chairman. I did not expect that even the vice-chairman would appear for this grade 1 Arcana Master test. That's right. The vice-chairman rarely takes part in these kinds of tests. Why did he suddenly appear today? Could it be that there is something special about this test? Zhuowen's gaze focused slightly as he stared at the insignia on the old man's chest. There were 4 golden stripes drawn there that were particularly dazzling in the hall. The old man in front of him was actually a grade 4 Arcana Master. The white-robed old man looked around and finally focused his gaze on Grandmaster Kuraki. A strange expression appeared on his weathered face, but soon after he calmly said, I will be in charge of this Arcana Master test. If no one has any objections, then let the test begin. After the white-robed old man finished speaking, he suddenly waved his sleeve. A wave of mental energy spread out like a tide, and the red curtain behind him slowly slid down under the influence of his mental energy, revealing dozens of green stone platforms. Each stone platform had the same materials. Clearly, these were the materials needed to refine the origin crystals. There are a total of 30 testing platforms. The test this time is to completely refine a blood chi crystal and have a mental energy of at least grade 1. You will pass. 3 sets of materials have already been prepared on the stone platforms, so you only have 3 chances. The time limit is the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. So please make good use of your time. The white-robed old man was swift and decisive. He did not hesitate in the slightest as he continued. Everyone, please choose your stone platform first. The test will begin soon. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.